Hello, my friend and friends. Welcome to my 1000th video. That's kind of crazy, right? I'm hoping everything is working. I was playing around with my setup for recording this morning because I wanted to sort of have things a bit better for the live stream. And about 10 minutes ago, I completely changed a whole bunch of stuff. And I might have screwed a few things up, so hopefully not. But hopefully everything is going all right. And yeah, thank you for joining me. I don't know how, but we're at 1,000 videos, which is absolutely wild to me. But I'm glad you're here to celebrate along with me. We're going to be having a bit of an all over the place stream, I think. Uh, there's a minimize windows. Where's minimize? Oh, you. See, I already screwed things up. This is part of the new setup I have. I didn't realize. I'm on a different. That's the wrong one. That's the wrong one. My screen is the wrong one. This is the right one. There we go. So I'm going to have to do this. And we're going to have to do this one and this one. Can move over to here now. So you'd think 1,000 videos in, I would know what I'm doing, but I clearly don't. That's probably better. I don't live stream much though, so that's my excuse. We'll go with that. See, I was poking around. So I'm at not 1080 anymore. I'm at whatever the 1440. And I thought I changed all my scenes, but I missed this one. So better now than what we had before. Yeah, we had a little bit of Discord in there, and my stream, my bitrate was there, which is fine. Luckily, there was nothing off screen that I was trying to keep secret. Not that I have any secrets. And I'm glad both, I was getting low bitrate warnings, and we seem to be up to, and good on those. Yeah, just seeing seeing if there was anything else going on. I don't see anything other than a bunch of congratulations, so thank you all so much for that. I appreciate it. Yeah, we're gonna be having some fun. Acom's building a UI library, a component library using knowledge from this channel. I hope I'm helping. Can I suggest other resources for like mine? What type of resources, I guess, are you looking for? If it's CSS, there is CSS Weekly. There's, oh man, I forget the name of it. There's a few good CSS channels out there that are small. That if you just keep looking, you'll find stuff. I did it through a lot. I mean, getting to this many videos is just takes forever. That's how as Tiago was saying, lots of hard work. It is basically just lots of sitting down and making videos. But there is maybe, I guess I wouldn't have kept doing it if the channel didn't get to where it was, because I'm like, anybody could make 1,000 videos technically, right? Hey Chris, thanks for joining. Yeah, water in a beer glass. Yeah, well, it's only 1 in the afternoon, and we don't want this to go off the rails. Okay, we're gonna start with. Let me. I'll see. That's bright. CSS. I'm gonna drop this in the chat. This is the one I was thinking. Dmitry Mainov has a nice channel. Whoops, you guys don't want to hear that. Let me just get his link. This is looks at some cutting edge stuff, but actually, I met Dmitry a while back, and he's been putting out good videos. But he's recently, the ones that reminded me of it is he recently did some on mixins and functions, which I haven't had a lot of chance to play with. Whoops, I keep opening that video. Oh no. YouTube playing in the back of my tab. Sorry about that. Let's see if I can recommend any other channels quickly. So there's CSS Weekly, like I mentioned. If I just Google or YouTube CSS, what other channels pop up? Judgment saying next stop 1 million subs. Yes, I'm gonna. My kids are starting to bug me a lot about not being at 1 million subs yet. So that is definitely the next step. The sub thing is slowed down though. So if anybody is watching and you haven't subbed yet, you can sub. Just get me to 1 million and then you can unsub. We'll get the gold plaque, just so I can get that little bit of, something. And oh, Coder. I would, there we go. Coder has some good content. That's generally more HTML, CSS stuff. She has 2 channels, but I forget the second one. All right, let's see what else I can find here that's going on. Ragnar, thank you for linking to the Twitch. Yeah, anybody who's watching currently on YouTube, this is over on Twitch as well. If you want a few links up above to find the Twitch one, or it's just Kevin Powell CSS over on Twitch. I guess we're going to jump in. This is my grand video. Yes, thank you, Terry. We're going to jump in, and I usually have all my shortcuts and everything set up. My setup, as I said, I was playing around with it, and I don't have any, oh man, I can't even find the window I'm looking for now. There we go. And I'm going to have to, this is not the smooth running you would hope for this. Kevin, I don't see any JavaScript course on your channel. No, you definitely don't. There are some videos. There's a handful of JavaScript videos. Oh, and you know what's wrong now? There we go. Okay. I'm going to jump on over to here. Oh, no, see, wrong. That's not the right one. We're on a train wreck today, everybody. Bottom right with chat. That's the one I wanted. There we go. This is cssquestions.com. I'll drop that in the chat as well. cssquestions.com. I hope I got that right. Which I saw come up a while ago. This is by Sunkanmi. I apologize for saying your name wrong. Sunkanmi Fafora. I saw this come up on Blue Sky few weeks ago, maybe like 3-4 weeks ago, and I planned to do a live stream on it. And then when I saw this, my thousands video was coming up, I decided I'm going to save it. I am a little bit, I'm a little bit concerned to do this, to be honest with you, because it's 200 questions. Okay, it says there's 200 questions. Here we can do a basic test or a comprehensive. We're going to do the comprehensive. So we're going to get 60 questions. My main worry is that I have 1,000 videos. We'll say 990 are on CSS. If I don't get every single thing right, I'll be very concerned. I will say it looks like there's these practice topics. I know, I'm going to say Sun, said that they were making a special update to the site. So I don't know if it's this here, but I've never gone past this screen, but this new stuff that's here is actually new. I'm going to give props right now. The new has an animation on it, but it's not a pulsing animation. It's pulsing, but it's like pulse and then stop. So yeah, it's nice that it's a pulse and stop and not just some like pulsing thing, especially with that many new tags going down the side there, or badges. So yeah, I'm a little bit concerned. We're going to see how this goes. So whether you're a beginner or experienced developer, there's something here for everyone. You can also brush up on your skills with the practice questions on various topics. Okay, we're just going to do the comprehensive exam. We're going to see what happens. Fingers crossed. Is it weird? I'm really nervous about this. Okay. Oh, okay. We're good. We're good. What are logical properties in CSS? Properties that I was actually thinking of making something similar a bit to this. It's kind of cool that I don't have to because someone else did. Properties that use if-else logic, properties that adapt to writing direction, properties that calculate values, properties that validate input. So what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to leave these up for like 10 seconds, and then I'm going to answer just in case you're trying to play along on your own. So yeah, I'm sort of giving it away there, but we're saying that there are properties that adapt to the writing direction. Okay. All right. What does view timeline create? This is fun because these are newer things as well. Like logical, this is the type of, well, especially logical properties, there seems to be a bit of a lack of knowledge on them for something that is well supported. But what does view timeline create? A timeline for viewing animations, an animation timeline based on scroll position, a visual timeline display, a time-based animation. So again, I'll leave it there for just a minute, or not a minute, a few seconds. To me, missing any question might be used as a learning tool or something that may have been forgotten, as long as you don't miss every question. Yes, definitely. So we're going with a timeline based on scroll position. Awesome. If you haven't played with scroll-driven animations in CSS yet, I would highly recommend it. Maybe we could even play around with that a bit later. My plan for this stream is very vague. We're going to do a bit of an AMA. I've already collected a bunch of questions. That was going to get recorded before I started this video, and I never did, so we're going to do it here. I have some from my patrons and channel members that I'm going to start with. Then we're going to move on to some that I collected in Discord, and I'll take ones in the chat while we're at it. But lack of knowledge. I think Ragnar now grid does have better. People are more on the grid train than they used to be. What does prefers reduced motion media query help with? Battery life, motion sensitivity, performance optimizations, or screen size adaptations? So again, I'm reading chat while I'm letting people play along. We're going with motion sensitivity and vestibular orders. Have they all been B? I'm curious now. What are flex items? Any flexible or grid element, items that can bend. I mean, yes. All items in a flexi layout, children of a flex container. I mean, I'm very tempted to go with items that can bend. That would be interesting in CSS. We don't have it, but like with the new linear timing functions that you can get like bouncy and springy types of animations and transitions, we can't bend things. I need someone to start working on a spec to like bend something now. So if you had like just a div that you could like bendy stuff. Children of a flex container. It wasn't B, so next question. Oh no. What does okay, oh no. Ragnar. What does grid area 1, 2, 3, 4 specify? I don't use the grid shorthand. Even grid areas, like the shorthand for grid. Oh no, wait. Grid area like that? Column start, row start, column end, row end. Row start, column start, row end, column end. Top left, bottom right, x1, x. Can you write grid area like that? I see people giving answers in the chat. I don't want to be... Okay, so it would be... Oh man, I don't use the grid... I never use the grid area shorthand. Or the grid shorthand for that matter. It's one or two. One or two. Let's think this through a little bit. If it's one or two... It has to be the second one, because all the grid stuff always, this always screws me up, because I always, whenever I'm using or defining grid stuff, I always think columns first, then rows. And if you're using the shorthand, I think it's always rows, then columns. So I'm going to go with that one. Okay. Yeah. Okay. That was a close one. How do you make a grid item span across 2 columns? This one I know. Okay. How do you make a grid item? I have to be careful because I have the chat in front of my camera. Every time I go to look and I see people giving answers, I have to like try not to like get spoiled if I'm struggling with something. But I want to be looking at you guys. How do you make a grid item span across 2 columns? Grid column span 2, grid span 2, grid column span, or grid columns 2? It would be this one. We want to span 2. Next question. Which of the following is not a valid CSS color function? RGB, lab, HSL, CMYK. It'd be cool if we had the one that isn't valid. Just because I've used it and it would be, I know why we don't have it. I'll just give this one. It's CMYK. If not, we're going to spend a really long time on here. But yeah, it's CMYK. CMYK is used in print. It could be one. So this is a pretty good question, actually. And it would be easier to use in lab, but it's pretty limited. And it's an additive color, subtractive color space. I don't know. It's the opposite of like RGB, right? RGB, when you're mixing things, you're going towards white. With CMYK, when you're mixing things, you're going towards black. Because RGB is with light. This is with actual physical inks. What happens when you use grid column 1 over -1? One of my favorite declarations, I must say. Sadly, the grid row 1 over -1 isn't as useful. It'd be really nice if the -1 could do work with implicit rows. But anyway, it creates a syntax error. Spans from the first to the last column line, spans one column, spans from one column to column -1. This one's actually a pretty good question for someone who didn't know, because like I could see a lot of people actually thinking it's a syntax error. Spans from the first to the last column line. Oh, wait. I mean, this is what it does, but I'm also like, it also does this. Okay, it doesn't necessarily go to the last column line, because if you have implicit rows, it goes to the last numbered column. Will I make a video on implementing liquid glass on web with CSS? No, because I think it's a really bad thing and I don't want to teach people too much on how to do it. Go on CodePen and look for it. There's so many. I mean, I'm saying no, I might do something at one point to look at ways we can do it to try and maintain decent accessibility with it. And there's really cool stuff with SVGs for like the distortion mapping and stuff that I don't know how it works, that I would have to learn, but that's good to learn stuff. So yeah, I'm stuck on this. So I'm gonna, technically it's the first to the last line, but it might not be the last line. It goes to the last explicit line, the last one that we've created, which would be column -1. It goes to the last I see Anna Tudor's here, and I'm wondering if she's a little bit more delayed than other people are, because I see her talking, and I think she's talking about the grid shorthand right now. Oh, maybe not. She's talking about the bending too. The SVG filters for bending. That would be an interesting thing to look at. I need to learn more about SVG and the stuff you can do with it. I see a few votes for 4, so I'm going to go with 4, just so we don't get stuck on this. This question, I think, it's kind of tricky if it's not that. Okay, so it could have gone either way. I get why this is there, but I think, yeah. Okay, which flex direction value stacks items from the bottom to the top? Flex direction, so top to bottom is a flex direction of column makes rows. You got to think about this because I always get it wrong. So it'd be column reverse. Okay. Know what guys, I should have just taken the second one on the other one. It's not, we're running on lots of B's. There's been other ones, but most of them have been B so far. What I should do is get Anna on the channel and she can teach me about using SVGs for all the crazy stuff you can do. So Anna, if you're up for that, let me know. Which property controls the order of flex items without changing the HTML? That's actually a good question too. Just for if you didn't know this, like any of these would make sense. Well, Z index, hopefully you can eliminate because it's stacking, but we're just going to say order. And luckily it's order, not flex order. They got rid of any of those that are like, and they're getting more, right? We're probably getting item flow and all of those things that are going to work in everything. Which property is used to make text bold? Font style bold, font weight bold, text bold, or style bold. So luckily this is font for bold, because I know the font weight bold. If this is italic, I don't use italic very often, and I'm always like, is it style? But what does CSS Grid primarily help with? Two-dimensional layout control, text styling, color management, animation effects. I think that one's pretty easy. Which shorthand property can define both? Oh no, can define both columns and rows at once? Grid. Can grid areas technically do that? I'm going to say it's the grid. Yeah, okay. I think, well, grid, I guess you're not defining the rows and columns, you're defining the areas, which can happen to then make rows and columns, maybe. What is a flex container? Any flexible element, a container that can resize, parent element that creates flex content, element inside flex layout. With actually, it's interesting with what is a flex container, just because like it seems like such a simple question. It is a parent element that creates a flex content. We're out of this is multiple questions in a row. We're not getting B, and it's probably randomized, and it just so happens that we're getting, or is it alphabetical? A, B, no, the E would be there. When I was in university training to be a teacher, which I never finished, I think I got like 3/4 of the way through. Because that was like my third career or something. I was doing that on weekends. One of the things they taught us was for multiple choice questions to always put them in alphabetical order, because that way you never have a bias on where you're positioning them, because you won't create any patterns, you won't do anything else, just always put them in alphabetical order. Sean is asking me to do a video on the grid shorthand. Ragnar, who's in the chat right now, has been asking for one of those for a long time. I never ever use it, so maybe I should, because maybe if I learn it well enough to teach it, then I might actually like it. What does grid template repeat? Grid template repeat auto fit min max 200 1FR do. I think should be grid template columns, right? Creates fixed 200 pixel columns. No. Creates responsive columns that collapse empty tracks. Maybe. Creates exactly auto-fit columns. Creates this one. They collapse empty tracks. That's sort of how it works, right? Whereas if you use autofill, it will continue making those empty tracks. Okay. I don't think of it as collapsing them, but I know that's what it does. I will be back in just 1 second. My dog was scratching at my door to come in. Okay, we'll keep on going. How do you enable Mace? Oh, I know what the, oh, how new was this question added? Okay, I'm assuming it's with what was in the browsers already. Because they're actually, I did a short last week. They've resolved to change the name. It won't be called Masonry, but I'm guessing it's this one. Yeah. So this works currently in Safari and in Firefox. You could use it today, but it's going to be moving to a new display type, and it won't be called Masonry. We'll see what it's called. I wanted to check, actually. I don't know if the issue's been open to start suggesting naming. I would love to know what people think we should call it, because it's going to be a display grid something or a display something grid. It's going to have the word grid in it. And I think, anyway, it's going to be grid something. It won't be called grid something, but it'll have the word grid in it. So display grid, whatever. I'd love to know in the chat if anybody has suggestions for it. The one name that was proposed so far that I've seen by Tab Atkins was grid stack. So display grid stack, because in one direction we have a grid, in the other direction they're stacking. I was thinking of grid flow, but as was pointed out to me, that is very similar to grid autoflow, which is an existing property and might cause some confusion. Drunken grid, that's not a bad one. Oh, you made it, Sun. I wasn't sure if you'd be here. Sun can me. Sorry, I apologize. I wasn't sure if you'd be here for the stream, so I'm happy you're here. How do you rate multiple conditions in CSS if? Some of these are tough. Oh no. I have no idea. Use semicolons between conditional value. I've used it once on the last time I did a stream, which was like 6 weeks ago, or more than that even, like 2.5 months ago. So I've used it once ever, and it was like 2.5 months ago. It's not this. It's not this. Both of these are very CSS-y. Use semicolons between condition value pairs. Use comma between conditions. I'm going to go with A. 60% confidence. Yes. If is going to be really cool, but it's If is a weird, if is nice. Like the whole idea of modifier classes is gone soon, right? We're just gonna have like ifs and data attributes for stuff. I think the concept of modifier, or not gone, but the way we do modifier classes is not going to exist in 5 years. It's going to be completely different. What does contain layout do? Contains layout within bounds, isolates layout in style calculations, styles container layout, layout contained elements. Layouts contained elements. So I know this one. This is definitely one I think a lot of people don't use. I haven't had much use for it. Ooh, just thought of one. Somebody was asking a question. I said to use contain. I should have said contain layout, I think, in my response to them. But it would be isolates layout and style calculations. This can be useful if you have something that you don't really want it impacting the things around it. And that seems really strange. Okay, let's open up a code pen. I want to test this. Sorry, we'll take a little side track here. Let's do, oh, sorry, that's bright. HTML, whoops. HTML, color, scheme, dark. We're gonna try div times 3. We're gonna do div has a background of HSL 0, 0, and 100% over 0.2, just so we get something. And then we're going to say that the body is a display of grid with a grid template rows. And let's just say it's like 200 pixels, 1FR, 200 pixels. And we'll put a gap on there, gap of 1 rem. So we have 2. 1FR is nothing. Oh, right. Whoops. Min block size 100 SVH. So there we go. Okay, so we get that, and we'll throw a margin of 0 on there as well, so then we don't get any scrolling. Okay, that looks not very fancy, but it works. We'll do a bigger gap just to make the differences a bit more obvious. So the height of the middle one is matching this. But let's say we come in this one, I'm just going to do p times 100 with some lorem ipsum to give lots of paragraphs of text in there. In this case, we're actually scrolling now, so that area is taking up all the space. I think, and this is just like FR, this is what the problem that the person had. If you're using FR is only additive. It's like a flex grow. If there's room to grow to fill that space. But if there's no room to grow, that's fine. In this case, our body has the min block size. We're going bigger than that, so there's no room for it to grow. It's just getting as big as it needs to get. If we do div nth child 2 contain layout, does that? Oh, it doesn't. I wasn't sure if it would. Height 100%? No. Huh, that doesn't work there. Oh, that did. Contain size worked, not layout. Okay, and then if I do height 100%, overflow auto, let's just say. Ah, that did do what I wanted it to. Okay, so I wanted the contain of size. So the size isn't being based on the contents of this div. The size is being based on the layout that it's being plugged into, or the defined size, like the height 100% here is what's defining the size. And it doesn't impact the layout outside of it. Not often you'll need this, but in the right situation, it could come in handy. SVH is a small viewport height. You probably want to use SVH anytime you use a viewport height on something. And I did I do block size on that and then SVH? I'm mixing logical properties with physical units is kind of weird, but whatever. Basically, just a comment. If you have like UI elements, like when you scroll on a phone, the address bar disappears. So the SVH will assume the address bar is always closed, whereas an LVH or LVB, B for block, will always assume that it's. Sorry, SVH will always assume that it's visible, so you have a smaller viewport because you have the address bar. L VH would be the opposite. It's assuming that it's never there. And then you have DVH, which will adapt as it comes and goes. The problem is it's not animated. So as that animates out, it holds one size. And then as soon as that stops, it will jump and change sizes. I find it kind of annoying. Could I min-max a 0-1FR? Maybe I could. Should we try again? Oh, wrong one. We'll come back to that after. Where's my tab? Min-max here. No, because it's always going to go to the max in this case, wouldn't it? Let's do that. Let's take off. Whoops, wrong place. Oh no, that would be right. And then I take these off. Because it's maxing at one. It won't go to the small size. It's going to max. It's going to the bigger of the sizes. And the 1FR again is additive, so it just means take up the space that you need to be taking up. We're not setting. And essentially that's the same as this, because everything by default basically has a minimum row height of 0 anyway. So I don't think that actually changes anything. All right, we're going to keep on going with this, but if people do have questions, do please let me know. I don't mind. We have 60 questions to get through, and I'm planning a long stream, so happy to do tangents if we come across interesting stuff. Which pseudo element targets the entire scroll bar in WebKit browsers? I think I know, but I'm not 100% sure. I think it's this one, right? Without the hyphen? Okay, good. Which property creates a new stacking context? Ooh, Z index with positioned element, opacity less than 1, transform, or all of the above. I will give this as another hint. If you're putting all of the above, maybe there's other questions that have this, but if there is an all of the above, make sure you have ones where all of the above isn't the correct answer, even though it's an option. Just because then it sticks out a little bit. My wife did a cybersecurity thing for her work last year, and it was like, it was stupid, but the practice of it was good. But the questions for the multiple choice were terribly done, like really, really bad. And anytime there was an all of the above, it was always that. So you didn't even have to read the question. You would just look if the last thing was all of the above, and it was, you could take it. So we got through it pretty quickly. What does writing mode vertical RL do? Vertical RL, vertical right to left. Right to left. Vertical RL. Vertical, I never use vertical RL. What would the RL do then if we're going vertical? Text flows vertically. Oh, right, okay. So it's vertical, but we're going from right to left. So the A, text flows right to left horizontally. Creates vertical, and I'm going to go with the first one. Okay. I was just trying to picture that in my mind. But yeah, the characters are going vertical, and it goes from right to left rather than the vertical lines going the other way. What property controls the spacing between rows? Grid row gap, row spacing, grid gap, or row gap? It's row gap, right? Grid gap technically does, but row gap does only do the rows. This is the shorthand for rows and columns. That Rob Human isolation isolate also does do that. You're right. That was for the other question on the stacking contexts. Interesting. The isolation isolate was actually part of the spec for like blending modes and things, because that's the one time when the idea is you're isolating something for the way you're creating the blending modes. But then it happens to be that's the way to do that is the stacking context. So it isolate, and I think it makes sense. Like you're isolating this thing, so it makes sense to me that it creates a new stacking context. Hey Henry, thanks for dropping in. We definitely don't have any Maiden playing today. We're on some lo-fi. I don't even know if you guys can hear it. I have it really low in the background. A little bit more chill. Maybe we could get some going after. I don't know what we can see. I sometimes have a little bit more metal stuff going on the streams, but I probably can't afford just to license any of the real stuff. I remember when I was doing a lot of research for the different writing directions, it was a really interesting thing because it was saying how a lot of the places that you would think of, like Japanese and the other ones that use vertical writing modes, how they don't, like, they've just because it wasn't really practical to do it on the web for so long, that they've just adapted, and most of the time they don't have it vertical. And I was like, oh, that's, I guess, kind of crappy. They got like pushed into not having it, and now it's become a standard. What does the app property allow you to define? Element properties, custom CSS properties with type information, property inheritance rules, or property animations. So I'll let people think about that one just in case you don't know. But yeah, custom properties with type information, which is awesome. App property is so cool. I didn't really think it would be great. There is an inheritance thing that's involved in it too, which is I didn't think would be super useful, that I've actually been very happy that we have. Which property sets the size of text? Font style, font size, text size, and font weight. This is like why the eternal question of why we have some text and some font properties in CSS. But I think we all set that one all the time. What pseudo-element can you use to style highlighted text? I never use highlighted text. Does highlight work? We have mark, but I don't think it's mark. I know we have selection, but that's not highlighted text. That's like selected text. And I think we can style highlighted text, right? Because you know when you go to like a link and then it brings you to like a certain area and there's highlighted text? I don't know. I've never done this. So yeah, I guess, is it like highlighted like this? In this case, it's selection. Mark, we would just style the mark element. So we don't need a pseudo element for that. But I think there's a highlight that I might have never used. It looks familiar, and maybe I'm talking myself into the wrong answer, and it should just be, because this would be selected. I'm going to do highlight. Oh, it was selection. Okay. I think there's something that we can use. Okay, I have to look this up now. MDM. Oh, I'm on a full screen. MDM. What's that called? Text. I don't. There's a. Oh wait. Highlight. MDM, is that a thing? Oh, there is a highlight pseudo element. Okay. Yeah, it is. There we go. The custom highlight API. Do they have an example of it? Yeah, for this, like you can custom highlight stuff. I thought I recognized it and I wasn't going crazy. So there is the highlight. It is the highlight pseudo element though? Or maybe there's no pseudo element for that though. Is that all? Oh, it is highlight. Okay. I was worried there. It's one second. So it's a pseudo element, but it's a pseudo element function thing. You can only do color, background color, text decoration, text shadow, WebKit text stroke color, fill color, text stroke width. And background image is ignored. So you have to put in what's being highlighted. And they give, so yeah, it's a bit more complicated, but you can do some interesting stuff with it. Good to know. Let's go back. Keep on going. What does writing mode... Oh, we got a similar one. So yeah, this is where you're randomly picking one. So now we're doing vertical, but left to right. Creates left to right vertical. Has to be that one. Yeah, okay. There's a different thing for search on page thing, yeah. What is the one that's... So highlight is with the highlight API. What's the one that's for... there's a word for it that's escaping me right now. Because you can set it up. Mark is for you. No, mark is... The mark element is to highlight things. I just realized my light is really shining red on me. That's okay. The mark element, MDM. I'm so used to opening a tab and writing. MDM mark element. Yeah, it's for like highlighting stuff. It represents marked or highlighted reference notation, which is why it was a good one to put into the question, because mark is an actual thing. But this is if you want to like not do it programmatically, right? This is where you're just doing it through throwing an element around it. Target text. Target text. MDN. Target text. I'm putting MDM on... I'm still getting these things, but the target text represents text that has been scrolled to if the browser supports text fragments. That's what I was looking for, text fragments, which are cool. Text fragments are awesome. It's a nice way to, like, when you follow a link, it's actually not only bringing you to the right spot, but it's like highlighting specific text that can be like helping with your question or something. And we can style it ourselves. Scroll to the text demo. Oh, that's bright, but there you go. This part is highlighted. Just got flashbanged. But yeah, that could be useful too. But it's not a pseudo selector, correct? It'd be cool if Firefox supported it. It would be, yes. What is view timeline axis used for? View timeline defines which scroll axis drives the timeline, sets the timeline duration, controls the direction, defines the timeline visibility. That would be the first one. I didn't give people a chance to answer. I apologize in their own mind there, but that would be that one. So you can choose, if you're doing a scroll driven animation, is it left to right scrolling, or is it horizontal or vertical scrolling? And you can have it be, you can do X or Y axis, but I believe you can also say block or inline. So however you need to set things up, if you want a logical property, it should work. Which pseudo class targets the root element of the document? I think we all know it's root now. Just because, I mean, they're sort of saying root element. It's a bit of an easier one, but we use it so much for custom properties now. Which CSS function allows you to mix different colors in color spaces? In different color spaces. Oh, okay. I was like, but yeah, I guess the name's sort of, this is a good name, well-named color mix. I'm trying to find better use cases for color mix. I had some that I liked, but I find I'm using now that we have relative colors and color mix, I find relative colors is more useful. So let me know if you have any good use cases for color mix. We need Z-axis scrolling. That would be interesting. We have to like simulate Z-axis scrolling anyway. So which box sizing value makes the width include padding but not the border? So that's one we never use because we always do border box. So content box is the default. Then when we define border box, it's going to the padding box to the border box. So that would be our padding box. Which property is effective only when flex wrap is set to wrap or wrap reverse? Yeah, I find it's one of those like annoying things because we had these first. All these alignment and justification things are so much easier to like figure out what's going on in grid than they are in Flexbox. But align content only works once elements are actually wrapping. If you have no wrapping going on, it doesn't do anything. Current target is also used for scroll spies, only available in Chrome at the moment. It is also a pseudo class, not a pseudo element. Yeah, the scroll spies is cool. I was talking with Sarah Swedane recently. That will come out next week, I think. I did an interview with her, and she did mention there are a few accessibility concerns with it. Not as bad as the carousel stuff, but the scroll spy thing is kind of neat though, how easy it is. But yeah, there are a few things you have to take into account to make sure it's accessible. Padding box doesn't exist anymore. We can't do padding box. I don't think I'd ever want to do it. Does padding box not? MDM padding box. Where's the? Oh, it's only border and content box. I just assumed you could. Huh. That's interesting. So we have no padding box. Which logical property replaces margin top in a vertical writing mode? Vertical's the normal, because we're going top to bottom. So if we're the logical property doing margin top, we're doing a block, and it would be block start. There we go. Firefox. Oh, PPK's here. Thank you for dropping in. Firefox used to support padding box. That's interesting. I didn't even realize that wasn't an option, or it was sort of an option. I'm curious why it's not supported, I guess, other than just nobody ever using it. which CSS? I mean, a few people now saying we never had it for all browsers. So if it was in Firefox. It just shows like I had no idea. Um, I can't. Padding box is used for backgrounds. Yeah. So yeah, padding box is definitely something that is used because you can use it for the clipping and what's the other one? I use it for if you want like a gradient border. But I always do. That's one time I'll use the background shorthand because if you set your padding box, you can have it work. It's doing double duty. It's background origin and background clip. I think both can go to padding box. Um, but yeah, it's good to know what the padding box is. Which CSS function creates a conic gradient? Conic gradient would create a conic gradient. Which property is used to change the text color of an element? Color. That's always the weird one, right? The color isn't text color. In a way, I'm glad it isn't. But is it the only font related? Like we have a bunch of text. We have font. There's line height too, I guess. It isn't like text line height or whatever, but because you have background color and then just color. One of those old things, like old day things, or is it just more convenient? I'd love opinions on that. The amount of times I've written, like I'm making a demo like I did before, and I just I want background colors on a bunch of divs, and I just write color, and they're not showing up, and I'm like, it has a width and a height, what's going on? And then like I'm inspecting it and I see it, and then it takes me like 5 minutes to realize I put a color and not a background color. And you'd think by now I would have learned, because this happens to me, like I've been doing that for 15 years. I still do it. What is the purpose of @supports @rule? Feature queries, media queries, import queries, namespace queries. It would be feature queries. @support are awesome. And have found more use cases for it recently because it lets you do progressive enhancements, but sometimes like maintaining two different things could be a bit annoying. But for some, like the corner shape is a good one where you might want a different value for the border radius depending on whether or not it's supported or not. Oh, here we go. It was excluded from box sizing only and was never implemented except in one browser, which would have been Firefox. Okay. That was about the box sizing. If I didn't say it out loud while I read that. Which property sets PPK, you missed the part where I was talking about that. We had a question on font weight bold. And I said if this was asking about italic, I'd probably get it wrong. Because I don't do it. I think it's text style, but I could be wrong on it. The ancient text properties are terrible and you can never remember them. Yes, I'm glad. I'm not alone on that one then. Oh, actually, am I still there? I just thought I saw someone congratulating me. Thank you very much for that, by the way. Untitled. But I just want to check if I'm still at the same place. Yeah, on Twitch, I'm at exactly 10,000 followers today too. So it's kind of cool. We're at 10,000 followers, 1,000 videos. And if we push really hard, maybe we could get to 1 million subs. Maybe, just saying, like if everybody just, create 3 accounts that's here and then tells their friends to do it and gets a few extra people involved, maybe we could get there. Font style. See? It actually does make sense that it's font style because you're styling font family fonts. Yeah, it makes sense that it's a font, but all right. What prefix helps legacy browsers ignore a media query rule? Only not and or. Helps legacy browsers ignore a media query rule. Not? No, but the not is... Why is it legacy browsers? That's throwing me off. What am I not thinking of? I'm going to say not because we're ignoring, but maybe it's only. I have to think. Oh, only screen. I haven't written that in a while. That was like what we used to always do, right? @media, only screen, and then you give the width. Thank you very much, Marco. I appreciate that. Um, Media only screen, yeah. Which property creates implicit grid tracks? Grid auto rows, grid auto columns, grid implicit rows, grid template implicit, grid auto template. So I know the answer to this. This is a good one because I think a lot of people aren't aware of the implicit rows or columns and what they even are. But basically, most of the time when you're using grid, you're relying on implicit rows and you're defining your columns. So you define how many columns you want, and then it will make rows to fit the content. So those are implicit rows. And if you use a grid auto rows, you can control the size of those rows that are being created. Not often I do that, but it can be useful in the right situation. You also can get implicit columns by changing the auto flow of things. Which color function would be best for perceptual uniformity? RGB, lab, hex, or HSL? I was going to go with one that's not in here. Oh, we got an answer for the media query one. So if you had the only word in there, legacy browsers didn't understand the only, so it would ignore the whole rule. Thank you, SHC. Perceptual uniformity, I would go, if I was choosing a color system, I would be choosing LCH, just because then you could manipulate the hue. It's similar to HSL, where if you manipulate the hue, the color changes. You're changing the hue without the saturation or lightness changing. But perceptually, like a yellow and a blue look very different. The yellow will look very bright, whereas the blue will look much easier on the eyes, even though the saturation and lightness are the same. With LCH, the idea is, or OKLCH especially, it is better for perceptual uniformity. In this case, because that's not an option, I would go with lab. The only reason I wouldn't actually use lab in reality is because the numbers are kind of magic, like it's all based on the math as far as I know. Because it's the AB coordinates on their infinite cube of color or whatever. I guess, I don't know if lab's a cube, because lab's like every color possible, right? I think LCH is too. But yeah, the lab is a lot of software if you're converting between two different color spaces. I don't know how the browsers do it, but I know like the Adobe software, or in print software, especially when I was doing that, if you were switching between color spaces, the browser would use lab to make, not the browser, the software would be using lab to make that change, because they could map the color into lab that has like this proper spectrum and then remap it onto the other one or something like that. That's at least how I understood it. Color spaces are weird and complex. How do you style a link that is both hovered and focused? A hover focused, a hover a focus, a hover plus a focus, a hover dot focus. So we're gonna go with this one right here. That would have been a fun one to have like an is in there or something, right? But yeah, we could hover, I mean, be careful with how do we style a link that is both this? Oh no, if that was focus, that could work, right? Because that could be you're hovering and you have focus on it at the same time. Yeah. The at container, that could be a fun way to build an Easter egg into something. Put something that's only styled a specific way if you're both hovering and focusing on it. Not the most accessible Easter egg, but it could be something. The at container at rule queries are based on which container property? At container at rule queries are based on which container property? Container query, container type, container size. Container size. Container type. Right. It has to. Okay, I went too fast on that. Container. What is container size? Does container size exist? Did I just take something that doesn't exist? You set your container type to inline size or size, and then it works. I went a little too fast on that one. I don't think container size is even a thing. I was thinking of it is that it's looking at the size of the container and not that it was a property there. A little embarrassing, but we'll move on. Sorry, I'm just trying to catch up on the chat. I used to use OKLab for gradients and then interpolate OKLCH color stops. I've been playing around with gradients with OKLab, but I find the LCH works, it looks nicer. I'm not a fan of OKLab for the color interpolation. So yeah, with that previous question, you have to have a defined container. So maybe the question could be slightly reworded to something like, how do you define a container for a container query, maybe? It's an awkward one to phrase a question for, though. How do you make a list not display bullets? Display list style type none, list type none, bullet none, list no bullets. That would be awesome. Which is the correct CSS syntax? Body, color, black. Oh, I feel like I have to read this one slowly. So it's not that one, because there we have that. Now we're getting kind of old school looking there. Both of these. So that one's a nice easy one. Okay. What does min-max, oh god, what does min-max 100 FR mean in a grid template? So the only reason I say, oh god, is it's like such a hard, like a weird thing to explain. Maximum 100 pixels, minimum 1 FR, fixed 100 size, no. Minimum 100 grows to fill available space. Okay, at least this one was pretty straightforward in the choices, because that one could be like, you could have a finicky answer in that would drive me nuts. What is the correct syntax for the clamp function? Clamp, min preferred max, max preferred min max, so it would be this one. Now, I'm saying that. Does it have to be in that order? That's always how you're going to do it, right? Always, always. But sorry, root color scheme dark. I should just leave this tab opened. H1 font size, just because I know in the other math functions the order doesn't matter, but I don't remember with clamp. Clamp 30. Let's just say 30 pixels. I'm just going to try something. If I do this, technically it works. It's going to make it 30 pixels. Let's make it bigger. So let's try 300. Ah, see, you can. No, that's the minimum then. And that's the maximum. So it's choosing that one. I don't know how I'm going to test this properly. So normally it'd be something like that. So let's just do, okay, we'll do 36 pixels, 10 VW. And normally we would do this. Let's see if this works. So it's getting smaller, bigger. I'm gonna like make these a lot bigger. Let's just try like 50. So smaller, and it gets bigger and smaller. Now if I switch these around, is it always a minimum? It probably is, but if I do this as a 56. Okay, so it does end up, it has to be the minimum and then the maximum. Because if you just did a min, you can just put like your whole list of different stuff, right? You can do like 100 pixels, 10 VW, 10 RAM, whatever, I don't know, 15%, whatever. And it's just going to choose the smallest of all of those, which apparently was 15%. Same with max. Now it's going to choose the biggest of any of the values I put in there. Yeah, anyway, so I wasn't sure with clamp if you could actually, I know you can also use negative values in clamp and do weird stuff. I think it's in clamp you can do that. Maybe it's in the min-max, I don't remember now. What is the correct syntax for the clamp? So it is min preferred max, yes. Oh, I mean, that makes sense, but I just wanted to double check that we couldn't break it. In Cascade layers, what happens when two rules have equal specificity but are in different layers? The source order determines the winner. The rule in the later declared layer wins. The rule in the rule with higher specificity wins. Both rules are applied. That would be weird if that could happen, if they're conflicting. I'm assuming in this case they're also like competing against each other, so like two different font sizes. So it is in the later declared one that wins. Yeah, okay, good. Wasn't too sure. I was pretty sure. I was just like, please, I hope I'm not getting that backwards where you do them the other way around, but if you haven't used layers yet, I'd encourage you to look at them. They're cool. They're neat. They're nice for like simple organization of things, or not simple, but They can get kind of complex. Anyway, what is the basic style of the CSS if function? Oh, we got back into the if. We talked about this. If condition value else fallback. I don't know. But we do know. Okay, we confirmed it's semicolon. It was semicolon separated. So I'm going to go with the first one. And hope I'm right. But this is a guess. Okay. I know some people would probably prefer without the square brackets, maybe. People would prefer something like this just because they're used to it from... because the if function's a lot like, well, not completely, but it's a lot like the ternary operators in JavaScript. But I think it's good that it follows sort of the CSS way of writing things. The last one's how Python devs write CSS. Hello. Hi. Okay. You're back? Welcome back. Dog. All right. Sorry for the interruption. The cool thing is yeah, you can have multiple houses. The one time I played with Kevin Powell Jr., yeah. Multiple ifs, or not ifs, else's are allowed. So I think we're going to have a few more interruptions coming up, just so you know. What does an inline element do? Flows with text, no line breaks, takes the full width, is hidden by default, becomes block automatically.
Dog.
Another dog. The same dog, I should say. All right. What does an inline element do? So it flows with text. No line breaks. I'm assuming it mean like if you have multiple, they won't force a new line. Perfect. Which at property descriptor defines the allowed value types. Types inherits syntax or initial value. That's a kind of a trick question because a lot of people go with type. So you use the syntax to say what type of or value it is. This is the one thing with at property is I need a cheat sheet for the different things that are allowed. I know there's color, there's degree, length percentage. I have to, yeah, that's a fun one. I think length there's people here that can answer this. Length percentage versus percentage versus length. I'd have to think about it. I'm pretty sure I can wrap my mind around. Like percentage isn't always used for length, right? Is it? No, it's not. I'd have to think about that a little bit. QW Dragon, I think the idea with the line breaks is just that it's not... Line breaks might be the wrong word. Because you can't, like, lines can break within an inline element, right? Because the text can wrap across into another line. But it doesn't, when you have an inline element, it's not forcing a new line like it would with a block element. Length percentage is, okay, so let's try and think of this, and then we'll MDM this in a second. So length is a length unit, 10 pixels, that's a length. Right? If you did width as a percentage, that's going to be a length. When would percentage not be a length? If you did a font size, is it? But I mean, I'm trying to think where percentages wouldn't be used as a length. Because I think it would still be considered a length, right? We're going to have to look this up. Matt's got it. Length percentage as opposed to opacity. So like, yeah, if you did like RGB, you could define those numbers as percentages, or like when I was doing HSL before, we had percentages. Those aren't length percentages. So in that case, it could be good to distinguish that it's a percentage that's being used as a length rather than a percentage that's being used for opacity or for other things like that. Thank you, Matt. There we go. Conic gradient for angles. You're putting the angle Oh, no, then it would be an angle though. If you're using the number for an angle, because conic gradient, or do they, when you say angles, do you mean the color stops? Yeah, the color stops, then it would be lengths or not lengths? I don't even know. Calc 1 pixel plus 1% is not length or percentage? Johnny Clueless saying, as a back-end person, just centering text is an achievement. That's fine. We're all at our own part. The color stops are percentages. The gradient rotation is an angle. But are the color stops percentages, Ragnar? So conic gradient red. Yeah. Okay. So if we did something like that, let's get a tab so people can visualize. Did I close the other tab we had? Oh, I have a few opened. Okay. Let's go to this one because I can just take off the background color. Is here. If I said, let's just do a background here. If I do background is a linear gradient, let's do steel, blue, comma, purple. So it shouldn't be too bright. It's pretty bright, sorry. And then here I put 30%. Is this a percentage or a length percentage? Could it be both? Like a length, no, because a length percentage wouldn't make sense. Like HSL, 250%, 50%, whatever, I'm not using this, but like these are not length percentages, these are just percentages. To me, this feels like it could be a length percentage because it's like along the gradient. I'm really getting into the weeds here on things that probably don't matter too much, but. We can't use pixels for that. That's, I don't think so either. Oh, can you? So it is, if I can use other units here, I see small changes happening. Let's just go here. Let's make this green at 10 VW. Okay, you can use, so it's a length percentage then. We answered our own question. Because you can use pixel values, which actually I knew that because I've used things like 1 pixel in this before, or I've done calcs with like a plus 1 pixel in this before. So I answered my question. It's a length percentage. I think percentage is always length percentage. Separate type is needed for mixed calc only. Oh, that's interesting. Okay. I could have looked. It's much more fun experimenting with it and finding out what it is than looking it up, right? What does the adjacent sibling combinator plus select? All siblings, next sibling only, previous sibling, or direct children? It's one of my favorite combinators. It is the next sibling only. Which value repeats background only horizontally? Repeat X. Yeah, okay, good. I don't use that very often. The background repeat was such, like, especially when it was only on one, where you'd get like, you'd have like something go across the top of your page or something like that. Like that was a pretty common thing in like the patterned background image days. Which CSS property controls the left margin of an element? Margin left. We're getting close to the end here. Which CSS, so whoops, which pseudo class matches elements that are user invalid? I wish, I mean, I don't know how else you do it. I guess the problem is user invalid is like a hard thing to describe what it is. But most of the time you want user invalid instead of invalid because it waits for the user to have interacted with the thing before determining if it's valid or not. That's the difference between those two. Which import syntax includes media queries? At import, style, at media screen, URL style, screen. I never do this, but I think I know which one it is. How do you define user invalid? Yeah. It would, I don't know if these the comments are coming up after I talked or not. I think it's this one, right? I don't use this very often. Oh, you just do screen? I thought you needed the media in there. Shows you the things I never do use. This is useful for print styles. If you're bringing in print, I think is where I would actually do this and not use it for screen, because you'd import your print styles separately. I could see that being useful. Yeah. If div has, what, actually, I don't know if I've ever imported styles that way. I'm thinking, maybe that's what screwed me up. I was thinking of when you're doing it with the script tag, because it did look a little weird, but anyway, it doesn't matter. I don't think I've ever imported based, I don't use imports, so, or not very often. In div has, what does this complex selector target? Okay, so we're getting a div that has a paragraph that is odd. All div elements, divs containing odd position direct children paragraphs, odd div elements, divs with paragraph, this one here. So it's a div that's containing a direct paragraph that's a child that is oddly, so if it has to have it, well, that would actually be anything, because odd would work for one paragraph. But it still works as a question. Which writing mode value is default for English? Horizontal. We're doing a lot of these. Horizontal, because we're going top to bottom. Oh, wait. No, vertical. Left to right. It was horizontal. What? Horizontal top bottom. Okay. Whatever. All right, yeah, okay, no, horizontal because you're reading left to right and it's going top to bottom. What property is used to add space between the border and the content? Padding. What does position sticky require to work properly? A specified top, right, bottom, or left value, a z-index value, a parent with overflow hidden, a display value. It needs this, but it's so weird because unless it's top, it's kind of hard to get to work right, no? If sticky's like such a cool thing, but when you start getting past the very basic use cases of it, I find it's hard to work. True or false? Multiple media queries can be true at the same time. Yes. Yes. The fact that some things here, but you could have like, yeah, 100%. Because you could be checking for, well, first of all, you could have two different sizes that overlap. Because it's two multiple media queries. Yes, has to be true. I'm talking myself out of it, but I think it's true. Okay, good. Like this, I felt like it was a trick question. Which pseudo element targets the first line of text? First line, initial line, start line, top line. I'm 99% sure I know this one, but the initial line is, we have initial something. Is it initial letter? And then we have first line? Okay, good. Another one I don't use very often. It could be a good one if, I think it's more like newspaper style though, right? Where the first line was bold all the time. What properties used to change the background color? We got an easy one to finish things off. And this is what I was just talking about before, where I said a lot of the time I do that and it doesn't work. And I like how they put a typo in that. I'm like, wait, they put the shorthand. I still think I should have done better. One of them was because I read it too fast. Maybe two of them were because I read it too fast, but still. That was fun. I'm glad I did that. That was, for anyone who wants to do it, because there's a lot more questions in there, cssquestions.com. It's a fun little thing. They have like, you can do a 20 question basic test. We did the bigger one, and they have specific things you can look at. So Sunken, thank you very much for putting that together. I appreciate it. Yeah, I'm not going to review all my stuff now, but that was a lot of fun. I really did enjoy going through that, even if I got a couple of them wrong. Sorry, I'm looking around my camera lens right now because I want to go back to here for a minute. Yeah. Initial letter has poor support. Yeah, I'm never going to understand why some things like that don't. gain more support. I think it was only Safari. I don't know if it's got any better support lately or not. Diver Girl, you're currently rewatching the bouldering playlist while making your first website for school. Amazing. I hope that it's going well. That's awesome. Actually, now I'm curious. Making my first website for school front-end development. Is it like a front-end development program that you're doing, or is it something else? Okay, now I have to look it up because we have conflicting information. I'll bring it up on screen if there's anything important. Initial letter, CSS. I should have looked it up. Oh, it is only Chrome. Why did I think it was only initial or first letter? 1 second. Okay, we'll go back to this on screen then as we look into this. What? So the initial letter property sets. Oh, I was thinking of this. No, that has baseline support. Was this the one? Ah, that's what I was thinking of. No. Maybe? No, that's been forever. There was one that was Safari, I thought, but maybe I'm just mixed up. The initial letter, this property applies to the first letter pseudo element and inline first level child of block containers. But the cool thing was that you could decide 3 lines tall base. Yeah, like the initial letter is the easy one to control. I've definitely played around with it. They have yeah, you can like play around with how big they are and stuff, and other things. Looks kind of weird when you only have 1 line of text to do it. But yeah, it's in Safari. So, oh no, sorry, it was initial letter was in Safari for a long time. Chrome added it in 1.10 and Firefox still doesn't support it. Okay. Initial letter is a newer replacement of first letter that fixes some of the things there. Perfect. 2-year online class, making a portfolio website, and the playlist is being oh, that's awesome. I'm glad. I always, makes me feel good if educational institutions are willing to, or sometimes it's the teacher that recommends it, other times it's just other students, but either way, I hope that it's helpful. Okay. Now I need to pull up another window that I have off screen somewhere. Not that one. This one? No. Oh, you know what? I know what we could do. I'm not good at this stuff, but we're going to do it anyway. Yeah. Okay. We'll do a little tangent and then we'll get to the next thing that I wanted to do. There we go. Okay. I really need to get my shortcuts working. But I set up different scenes, so it makes it a little harder. The teacher put it in the recommended material. Amazing. That makes me feel good. All right. So the first thing, front-end masters, if you know them, you might not. By the way, I joined front-end masters, like, I don't know, forever ago. When I was learning stuff. I still am. We're always learning, right? But a long time ago I joined. And the JavaScript, the hard parts, was one of the favorite classes, online classes I've ever done for anything. Will is a really good teacher. So yeah, if ever you're stuck on JavaScript stuff, talking about, what is it? Higher order functions, closures, types, operators, asynchronous JavaScript, and object-oriented JavaScript. Really good course. So I'm recommending it a lot. But the reason I'm mentioning it is because I am having a new workshop with them coming up in October. And the link to this is in the description below. But yeah, can I get here? There we go. And there we go. The new workshop is coming, and I already have another class, Professional CSS, building a website from scratch, with them already. So you can check that out. If you do sign up with them, you can use the link down below. I will say it's an affiliate link. It says it in there, but it will automatically apply the coupon code to save 25% if you do decide to sign up with them. And I do have some tutorials. Some of them are from here on YouTube, but they're also doing exclusive stuff. I don't know if I'm supposed to talk about that or not, but I do have some standalone front-end mentor-only videos that are over there. So if that's something you're interested in, the link is in the description. Next up is Smashing. This is their, once again, links in the description. Online workshops. I'm doing lots of workshops apparently because I'm doing the new CSS toolkit, which is still on early bird pricing, which is going to be a lot of fun. That's in December. So December 3rd through 17th. So that one's online and you can sign up and yeah, sign up for that one. We're exploring how modern, but my pitch for it is that if your CSS looks the same today than it did 5 years ago, then this is the workshop for you. I mostly want to be looking at things that are practical that you could use today, that are just with all the new stuff that's come along that is well supported, plus some other cool stuff that's not perfectly well supported and some of the really new stuff, but mostly a focus on the things that are applicable today that you can use. And if you can't do the online one, actually, I probably should have done these the other way around. Because I'm also going to be, another thing with Smashing I'm doing is April 13th to 16th, I'm going to be in Amsterdam for their Smashing conference. And I'm one of the speakers. There's more coming. But yeah, I'll be speaking there and doing an in-person workshop there as well. So if you can be there in person, that would be amazing. If you want to do an in-person workshop with me or just to hang out at the conference, that is coming up in April. So that one's a little further out. And I think that's it. Yes, that was all the promotion and other stuff. There's links to other courses too. If you like self-paced courses instead of workshops, I have a link down below. This is if you're on YouTube. If you're on Twitch, you'll have to Google it. I apologize because I don't know how to set that stuff up with Twitch. So yeah, my uncomfortable pitches all out of the way. I don't like talking about things that cost money, but I do realize we have to make a living. So I am going to mention it. And Ragnar saying there's too many conferences in Amsterdam. There's quite a few that are there for sure. I haven't announced something else that I'm not sure if I'm supposed to, and if they're still here, they can let me know if I'm allowed to talk about it or not, because they'll know what I'm talking about. But I don't know if they want to wait on that. But saw the professional CSS course as an update to Leoveru's dynamic CSS with custom properties on Frontend Master. That was my professional CSS. Did it replace Leia's? I don't know. The one that I'm working on now is going to be a bit earlier. It's the professional CSS one's definitely like, you've been writing it for a while, you're comfortable with it. Let's just look at how somebody might target a sort of a project and tackle these different things and look at modern CSS. As well organized as we can possibly get, building up to scale it. The one I'm doing next with them is more beginner. So you've played with CSS a little bit. You realize it's a little bit harder than maybe it seems at first with like the very simple declarations. And it's sort of covering a lot of the fundamentals. But like a modern fundamentals course, basically, which might even be what it's called. I don't remember. It was suggested as an update by Frontend Master. Okay, cool. Okay, so yeah, speaking of Amsterdam, PPK saying I'm allowed to mention it. So I will also be in Amsterdam again, since that's where all the conferences happen, especially for front end, for whatever reason. The UK has quite a few too, though, but Amsterdam does seem to have a lot. But I'll be back at CSS Day, the next CSS Day, which I'm very much looking forward to, and talking at that too. So it's an exclusive first. You heard it here first on my 1000th video celebration. So thank you to PPK for inviting me back to there. I'm very happy to be returning because that was, it's a highlight of my career so far, having spoken at CSS Day. We need a modern fundamentals of HTML. That could be the next one, the next one that I suggest, because yeah, we could do that. So yeah, for the CSS Day, if you're not in Amsterdam in April, that is on the 11th and 12th of June, and is amazing. CSS Day is fantastic. If you like CSS and you happen to be in the area or you can get to the area, I would highly recommend it. It was so nice being there last time. So many good people, just a ton of fun. Um, okay, next up, I wanted to do, let's see if I can find, I had another window open and now I can't find it. Um, maybe it's there. Oh, it is here. Okay, there we go. I don't need to show you this because I can just read off the screen. I mentioned at the beginning, but I'm sure there's people here that weren't here at the beginning, uh, that I did, like I was going to do an AMA section. So we'll be doing an AMA of sorts. Actually, Ragnar saying they have bad weather. I don't know what the weather's like. Summers are good. I'm going in April now. I am a little bit. It can't be any worse than my winters though. So, um, but yeah, we're going to be doing a AMA. But I'm starting with doing. I got questions from channel members and patrons that I already collected. I only have 6. So we're going to start with those. And then I'm also going to be going through other ones that I collected in Discord because I wasn't planning to do this on a live stream. But since I'm here anyway, and while I'm doing the ones from the Discord, I'll also take questions that are in the chat. But we'll start with the patrons and channel members ones. So Kyle, actually, I'm going to come back to Kyle's because that one might require some code. And hopefully I remember to come back to it. Except now that I'm here, oh, that's how I change. Okay. We're going to go with Oyston's question. He has 3. What are some of your favorite CSS snippets? Okay, well, let's come back to that. Which upcoming features do I look forward to the most? I think it'd be a little bit controversial, but I am really looking forward to the advanced ATTR function that we can do. I probably should do a demo for that. Okay, we will. I wasn't planning demos for all of this, except every time I'm changing screens, I have to find my stupid thing that's behind my camera. And that's the wrong software. This one. Oh, I might have something in CodePen already for this, actually, so we won't have to recreate it. ATTR. Okay. We'll do another. So the ATTR function I have right here, and this is like this is the first thing I did with it. You could use it for anything you want. This maybe isn't the best use case of it actually, but you can see I'm doing an ATTR function, so just ATTR here for my repeat, but the repeat is coming from the data columns that we have up here. And this is what we were talking about before with the syntax of app property, where you do have to define the type. So I'm saying that this is a number. So CSS knows what the value is and whether it's valid or not, because if I did like 3, obviously that doesn't work. So it needs to be a number or it breaks everything. But yeah, I could say I want 3 columns, or I want 2 columns, and then it's going to go to 2 columns. Or I could say I want 1 column and it goes to 1 column, or whatever it is. You could just set an attribute here and get the value of the attribute being used in your CSS, which is so cool. I could see this being really useful in like if you had a product. So say you know, like div, or maybe an article. Let's say article class equals product. And then you could just have data stock is equal to 10. And then close div. And then you might have right now. Okay, this is going to combine 2 things, because right now we can't do ranges, but with the if function, which we were also talking about, we'll be able to do ranges. So you could have like product after, and you could have like a little decorative element. So it's like a low stock icon even, or something. So whatever, you could just even do color. So like color, and then if, and then you could check what the stock is, and if it's a certain range, you're showing it green or yellow or red type of thing. And all of that, so JavaScript saying how much is left in stock, and then with one class, you could have that coming. So like I think data, and it doesn't even have to be data stock, it could just be stock even. You can use custom attributes if you want instead of data attributes, but if you're using JavaScript, I think it makes sense to use the data attribute. I do think that I wouldn't be surprised if Tailwind and other utility class type things stop working based on classes and start just doing things like, you know, display equals flex and font size is equal to 12 or whatever. And like, this is kind of scary because it makes me think of the old days a little bit too much. So it might be one of those things that is a double-edged sword, but I just think there's so many cool use cases for it that I am very much looking forward to that. Anna saying that most of the use cases are work with variables. I agree that variables do cover a lot of, you can do a lot with custom properties. And I think the custom properties are one of those things that we didn't realize how amazing they were. But I do still think that the data attributes has a lot that we can do. It's going to be pretty interesting. JS and CSS almost. But it's just about styling things. So to me, it makes sense that it's there instead of having to rely on JavaScript for it, or having to have like, the modifier classes do it. If I could just do it all within one declaration, the readability of it will be interesting, but I'm sure we'll figure things out. I am very much looking forward to seeing how that impacts things. Oyston also asked, if I was an animal, what animal would I be? Which I don't actually know. What's a cool animal that's not too like, a turtle like could be cool, right? Like a sea turtle or something that's just like chilling all the time. Low stress, I think, except for that like one bolt at the beginning when they're come out of their eggs and they have to make it to the water. And even that, they're kind of, maybe not. Maybe you want something where humans take care of you, now that I think about it. There's definitely advantages to living like, like a cat could probably be okay. What's the timeline for the data attributes? I don't. What is the, can I use ATTR? Yeah, I don't even know, or does it show? No, I don't want to test. I wasn't sure if you could get, I don't know if there's signaling support for it or not. I haven't looked into it yet. Maybe some people in the chat know. DPK saying it's useful for data that's easier to add. Yeah, I think anytime that the data is coming from somewhere else, like I think that the ATTR is going to be great. But yeah, it all depends. I don't know when Safari is actually planning, or Safari or Firefox. We could look to see, but it's going to be a while. Let's just say that we're a few years away, and if would be even farther, right? Whoops. Can't type. I mean, it probably looks, yeah. Looks 63. Oh, they were added. Oh, wait, back. Nope. Forward, sorry, if, and then ATTR, were they added at the same time? ATTR was added slightly before, but basically the same support for the two of them. I could see if taking a while, but you never know. We'll see what happens with them. Favorite CSS snippets. I would say one of my favorite ones is I have too many tabs open now. Oh, I closed CodePen. Okay. Flow. Do I have? Yeah. All these things that are really bright. All right, this is my example of this type of thing. I use it all the time. I think it's fantastic. The other one would be a container. It's not really a snippet though, but I mean, I copy and paste it. I think it's this one. Is it? No, it's not. Let's see if we can find it. Oh, maybe it's this one? Nope. What did I don't, this is the problem. I'm so disorganized in my CodePen. I know some people curate their saved CodePen stuff. I do not do that. My CodePen is a mess. It's not container? Oh, it would be this one? No more containers? I don't have it set up here though. Where's the finished version of this? Come on. I think, one second. I think I have it set up in one. Whoops, back. I think I have it set up in one of my templates. Might even be this one. It is this one, primary layout. Again, this is really bright for me right now. Let's go. No? Oh, wait, this has... Aha. I was like, where's this coming from? This is the one. Leave is fine. Oh god, this is just the CSS. I don't want .css at the end. Okay, there we go. Finally. We got there. Surface, not all of that, not all of that. This would be one of my favorite CSS snippets, if we can find it. This is a good one. I said stack. I don't know if I love the name stack for it, but just stacking content with a consistent grid on it. Spacing, I guess it's sort of like the flow one that I looked at. This is a good one. I love this. You pile, like if you want overlapping content, this is super awesome. I mean, these are all sort of the ones I use, to be honest. Yeah, there's the pros one that I was talking about. So this is a lot of the little snippets that I love. Pile, grouping content with flex wrap, pushing things apart. And this is the one I was thinking of, the primary layout, which is, this is more than a snippet, I guess. But it's using the grid column, named grid columns to be able to control where things are. So if I come on the layout, I can say, let's just find, did I set, I just want to make sure this is set up properly with the classes that, yeah, it is. Okay, so narrow, extra wide, wide. I don't think I have any proper colors set up anywhere, so it's going to be hard to see. So let's just come here and say that my dot colors has a background of black and a color of white, just so we can see it. Oh, that doesn't exist on my page. I was setting it up and I never did anything. Let's do padding on there then. Padding of 5 rem. So we should actually see it. There we go. We have a section. Let's pretend there's some content in there. And then I could just come here and say this is narrow. And it goes into the narrow area. Or I could say it's wide and it goes wider. Or I could say that it's full width and then it goes full width. Right? So like those are pretty useful. This also isn't a paragraph right now because it's not an element, but if it were an element, it would actually line up. My padding should only be padding block, and then the text will also stay aligned with everything and stuff. So I have a video on YouTube on how I set all of that up and stuff, but lots, yeah, this would be my list of like useful, I should make a singular video on this probably, useful snippets. The other question that I said I was skipping that I'll come back to was on BEM and understanding BEM. I'm not going to do a big deep dive on it, but I will say a mistake that I see is like, you might need to do this, but like say you have something like this where I have an ID here, but let's just say this is a class. So I don't think it'll break anything. So say we did something like this with this class of hero and the pros, that doesn't really matter so much. But then this becomes class is equal to hero title. And then this becomes class is equal to hero body. And then this becomes class is hero button instead of the primary button. And people get like stuck on doing stuff like this. And it's just that if something is the child of another thing, doesn't mean that just because this is a block, that this has to be a piece of that block, whatever they call it, block element. Like it doesn't need to be something that's living there. This could just be like a section title, right? Section title. And then this could be whatever. I probably don't need a class on there. And then this would be the primary, BTN primary, right? Like you don't need to have them all as part of hero unless there's a specific thing with that element that it has to be part of there. So if like this H2 is going to look different from every other section title, then yeah, then it makes sense to actually have this as your hero title instead. And then you would do your hero title. But if it's something that's just a section title and you're using that in other places, that's completely fine. Not everything has to be encapsulated, which I think is where people end up getting like, then they'll do a span here, and then they're going to do a close span. And then this, they're going to say that it's a class is equal to hero title span. And even in the BEM docs, they say not to do this. You should never have two things with the underscores on them. So if you are going the BEM route, this would probably, I would just do title span like that. Hero title span. Just so you're not like overly nesting and becoming overly, or even title accent or something like that. Title, like this is its own component that happens to be in the hero type of thing. So it's not a piece of a piece, if that makes sense. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And then you end up, yeah, Ragnar said it, where then you end up with this, and then you have like hero title span accent. Like it just becomes unwieldy so fast. So if you're going to use BEM, just make sure it's all single things and you're not like overly, it sounds like that when you're first looking at it, and you think you're doing it correctly, but it quickly spirals out of control from there, which is one of the reasons I've sort of moved away from using it. Next question from Ahmed asking, I'm working with HTML and CSS for a very long time, but not as a real user for this technology, mainly customization of ready-built sites from Avanto, for example. He gives some examples of his work. The problem is I'm not proficient in CSS and I can't build a complete website professionally. What advice would you have for me, and which courses would you recommend? I think being able to modify existing sites is a good skill to have, because looking at other people's code can be quite difficult. It is nice when pieces are in place. I think it's also really common that people do this, right? That we poke around and we play around with like existing things. I think is a way that a lot of people start. I did a lot of WordPress stuff, and at the very beginning, it was a lot of that until I got frustrated by the limitations of working with what I had. I think part of it's practice and actually building things. So like courses can help, because courses can be curated. I'm going to say CSS Demystified might be a good one to go with, which is my course, or one of the one I have on Front End Masters might be a good one too. But I think that even without that, like following a course only gets you so far. It's nice that it gives you a structured learning path, and I think that's the value of courses. If you're going to buy a course for any topic, you're not buying necessarily, I mean, you have to get an instructor that you like and everything else, but I think the bigger part of a course is the learning path they give you. So you're not just like piecemealing things, which can be kind of confusing, especially if there's conflicting information from different instructors. Because so much of what you need to do is build stuff and not just follow tutorials. And I think that's the biggest thing anybody can do who feels stuck, is just and it can be small things, go on like Front End Mentor, find layouts that are there and try and build them. I think that's the way that you'll learn the most. It's even like when I was doing the questions before, and it's like, how do we learn? We learn by making mistakes, and by playing with things and by trying things. Eric Philippot asked, what is something you wish you had time to do? Now this, I could retire tomorrow. If I could afford to retire tomorrow, I would retire tomorrow. I have so many things I wish I had more time to do. I'd make my own beer, and I wish I had more time to be able to do that, because it's probably better for my health that I don't. But I wish I had more time to do that more often. I do sim racing, and I don't get a lot in anymore because I'm doing other things, and I really wish I was doing some practice 2 nights ago, and it was just so much fun, and I wish I had more time for that. But that's definitely something that if I had more free time, I would be putting into that. Just because I have family, kids, work. The main hobby that I have right now is bouldering, and I'm trying to prioritize that as much as possible because it's actually getting me out of the house and getting me moving, getting me active. And I think that's a good thing to prioritize over making beer, which I'd be drinking, or just sitting in a chair after leaving a chair to do sim racing. So yeah, I'd say that I'd probably would do more of that too. And I'm the type of person who likes picking up new hobbies and just playing around with them and trying stuff. So like I'd always have something to do if I had the time to do it. More time to beat you in Wordle. Yeah. Anna, you started on Blogspot. So I started originally, I did lots of like GeoCities stuff too. Like if we talk about like originally, WordPress was when I was actually like trying to make sites for people. But I don't remember. I remember Blogspot. I don't remember doing anything with Blogspot beyond. I think I had one, but I don't know what I did with it. I don't have any like distinct memories of it. The next question was from Anonymous, who asked, when I use a div as a container, it doesn't inherit assignments for grid columns, etc. Am I doing something wrong? Does display grid collide with setting the same element as a container? So this could be a fundamental. I'm going to copy paste. I wasn't keeping these on screen. Oh, whatever. You don't need to see it. They're saying, I think this is a misconception of how inheritance works. But it could be that it's not. If something is a container, there are limitations when you have containers. Okay, let's try this because I don't remember what they are. Let's make this a container. Okay, there is limitations on how certain things work with containers. But first off, they were saying that things like the grid don't inherit. So that wouldn't. Generally speaking, it's only typography related things that inherit. So if it's only typography things that inherit, I'm trying to think of what's the limitation with container queries, or if you're doing a containment, because we have to, it's a size containment, but no, the only thing that I was going to do a demo. The only thing that I think that doesn't work is if you're using, okay, we can actually do this. We're going to do on this, we have this weird, okay, we're going to do one of the most underused features in CSS. Let's do H2. Oh, now, counter reset. I'll do count H2, we're just going to do on all the headings. H3, H4. No, not counter reset. We're going to do body is counter reset of test. You don't have to double hyphenate these, but I'm going to do it anyway. And then this would be counter increment of our test. And then all of these have an after, and the after is going to have content of the counter test. Okay, I see one of them. I have a 1.1 over here. Welcome section 1.1. But why do I only have it there? Oh, whoops, I put star. I wanted this to be an ampersand. There we go. Welcome section 1, section 2, section 3. So it's counting. We have a 4 now. So here's a 5, here's a 6. So let's do it as a before instead of an after. Let's set a margin left of 2 rem, and let's set this as a font, or we'll do a color of var. I think that would be a color that works in here. Apparently it's not. Accent? I haven't used this starter template in a while. There it is. Okay, so we can see those coming through now. They're numbered and they're pink, so we can see them. Maybe I'm going to do green here actually, just so it stands out and we see it instead of these pink bullet points here. So yeah, I'm using a counter and it's counting and it's showing up in all those spots. The only time a container screws things up is for counters, inline size, I believe. That would be maybe it's fixed because this looks like it's not broken. Container type inline size. Oh, that's an ID. There we go. There we go. So now I have a 1, and then you can see it's 1, 2, 3. It starts over again here. And then it's continuing to go, but let's just close this div here. And then that should screw my counters up again. So 1, 2, 3, and then it goes back to number 2 because that's counting off the 1 that we had originally up here, and then it goes down to the 2 over here. So yeah, the only thing that I know of that containers get in the way of is counters. So I think the question that was asking about, we're not inheriting things for like grid columns and other things like that. Those are just properties that aren't inherited. If it's a typographically related thing, it will be inherited. If it's not, then it isn't. And I'm also realizing when I set a div as a container from this question, based on the misconception, I think I went way too high level on this, where I started thinking of it as a container with this type of container versus a dot container max width, which is much simpler. But yeah, those properties aren't inherited. I think that is more of what the question revolves around. Ragnar asking where I'm at the climbing side. I think I'm V4 and projecting V5s. My gym uses like a range system, but I was at a few other gyms recently, and that seemed to be where I was falling in. Next question. How do you use icons? I prefer using pseudo elements, but it seems most developers use extra markup. I would say it depends if the user is going to interact with it or not. If it's just something like a bullet point, I think using pseudos is fine. If it's just decorational, it's fine. If it is a pseudo element and it's conveying information, we can add, like with content now, and I haven't, like say you do content and you have some, like your icon is coming here, you can do like, is it like this now that we do it? Is that correct? Let's look it up. I'm going to get it wrong. MDM pseudo element. Because we can add alt text to pseudo elements now on the content property, which I probably should have looked up content property. Content. Yeah, / and then you put the... So if you're going to use icons or something like that, I would say do, and it's not just decorational. If it is conveying information, you probably want to put in the alt text with it. The browser support for this is good. I don't know if it's perfect, but it's good. So alternate, yeah, your browser support should be pretty good. Firefox was the last one with 128. But all the other ones have had it for quite a while. But look, 17.4 for Safari. But so it was in Chrome for a while. But I would say that if it is conveying actual information, like it's meant to be visually something, maybe it's better as a piece of content, like an SVG. Well, it depends. You might be using the SVGs in your content, which I do. But if it's something that is really conveying information, putting it inline, and then you can have an area label on it, or you can have a visually hidden piece of text that goes with the icon type of thing. So there's a few different ways, but I think it depends on the situation, as is most things these days. Yeah, that was all the questions I got from my channel members and patrons. By the way, if you want to join, you can become a channel member or a patron. The main benefit is early access to content and random exclusive videos. Not very often. I do a monthly update, and I do random behind the scenes stuff that I was doing more of, and then I haven't done for a while, but I'll probably have a bit more behind the scenes things coming in the not too distant future. But yeah, not very often on that front. I am going to switch over back to here and pull Discord on over to this side because I collected questions here, and now I will open up the questions to everybody as well. But I gotta find, oh, it was here. I forgot where I asked for the AMA questions. Oh man, I was supposed to share, it's okay. I was gonna do an announcement on Discord that I was going live and I forgot. Perfect. I got a lot of questions here, so I'm gonna probably won't get through every one of them, but I'll try. I'll try my best. But again, I'll also be looking at the chat. So if you have any random questions, can be anything, let me know. Johnny saying you haven't lived unless you've written a website in hot dog. Ragnar, the main benefit is giving money to Kevin. I mean, my main benefit, I guess, from it. It's showing your support, right? I don't like asking people for money, but the first question that we have over on Discord was, what number are your glasses? I don't remember. It's like a +1. They're not very strong. Yeah, they're not strong. That was from Code S. Oh, I have streamer mode on. I can disable that because we're not showing anything on screen right now. Matey Black asked my favorite game. I would say this changes from time to time. iRacing, sim racing, I probably, I guess, would count as my favorite game. I've been playing, I got back into Hitman for a while. So Hitman 3, I quite like. There's like random games I play with my kids that can be fun. My younger one's really into Geometry Dash right now. I'm really bad at it, but I can see why it's fun. Yeah. I don't play a lot of games these days though, so it's a hard one to answer. QW Dragon, you had a video about height animation via grid template rows 0 to 1FR, but now it seems broken in Chrome as it shrinks height of the row once more. Oh, really? Ooh, that's interesting. I'll have to look into that. That would suck if that was the case, because I know it was a hack, but it's one that people were using. Some people because of me. So hopefully it doesn't break a whole bunch of people's sites. Fort asked, how did you start YouTube? I started YouTube as a hobby. I was kind of bored with what I was teaching and said, I'm going to start doing stuff that's a bit outside of the scope of what I teach. And I started making weekly videos, and after years, other people started watching them, and I kept it up. Kaylin Marion asking, if you have a right arrow as a before element inside a button, I can add alt attribute in CSS and it will be interpreted correctly. I would definitely recommend testing it to make sure, but it should. If the only thing in the button, in that case, I'd probably have the arrow as content, but if there's text already, like if it already says previous and then you have, or I guess the right arrow would be next. If you already have the text next and the right arrow with it, I wouldn't include alt text. I actually wouldn't want any alt text on that, because it's going to be, the word right is already giving it. You don't need like right arrow. You don't need to describe it, because that's the only reason you have the arrow there is to indicate it. If there's no text to go with the arrow, then I would want some alt text, yeah. Clipper Room, I don't play Hitman with my kids. The oldest, I've been playing some Fortnite, but that's okay. It's not my favorite game. That's just my older one. My younger one, the best game I played with my younger one was still Nobody Saves the World. I would recommend that to anybody who has kids. It's co-op, so it's only 2-player. And the older one, I did play Portal as well. Portal 2, which was fun co-op mode. Unknown, when will we see app property used in the wild? I'm pretty sure we're already seeing it used in the wild. You just aren't aware of it. But I don't look specifically at things unless I come across something where I'm like, how did they do that? Then if I see something like, how did they do that? I haven't come across app property, but like I've seen at layer used. So if at layer is being used, I'm sure property is being used out there. Wizarays asking, do I miss IE5? No, I don't. Or IE6 or any of them. Simple Man, thank you very much. I appreciate that. You've learned watching since 2001. It's been a while, eh? It's kind of crazy. Just seeing if we have anything else in the chat. I don't see anything. Don't see anything else. Okay. So if anybody has any questions, feel free to drop them in. Favorite snack? Mega Brains is asking my favorite snack. My favorite snack. I don't snack a lot. I'm not like a candy person or anything like that. I'm trying to think. I like chips. For me, snacks, if it's like just a snack I get, whatever. You know what I mean? Not something heavy. I tend, like, it's going to be like, I'm trying to think of the right word for it. Like food, yeah. Like, I'm not like, nobody wants fruits and stuff, but like, nothing sweet. I like it could be cookies, it could be chips. Like when I'm saying that, it's because it doesn't have to be like salty, right? Obviously, like salty stuff is all right, but yeah, I always go to look for a snack and then I end up walking away because I'm like, I don't see anything I like or that I want. Granola bars are good, stuff like that, but I'm really not a big snacker. Nicholas asking, when did you start on the web and when did you know that you love CSS? So I started originally in high school, so that would have been late 90s that I started, like 98, 99. when did I know that I love, and that was like a hobby. I just was every now and then would make a website. I'd go in Photoshop and design something terrible and then just slice it up and turn it into a website. And then just every now and then I'd have something else to do. I started really enjoying CSS when I started playing around. So when I went back to school for design, for more print related stuff, there was some web classes, and that was right around the CSS3 days or just after. And all the new stuff was there, where it made like border radius and box shadow. And you look at it now, you're like, I can't believe we were so excited for those things. But there was like css3generator.com and stuff that was like super exciting. I think that's when I started getting more into it, because I started building stuff outside, like outside of my web classes. I was doing a lot of web stuff and learning a lot more about it. And then I think I realized that I like CSS when I was working. I started doing a lot of WordPress work, and it became like the fun part of everything I was doing was writing the CSS for it, over everything else. So, yeah, I think it's just also because I did design related stuff that like it was a bit of a natural fit there. Ragnar and Paul both saying that beer can count as a snack. That's a dangerous favorite snack, but yeah, maybe. What's the newest project you're working on? It's all personal stuff right now, so nothing too fancy that I can. I wish that there was. Well, not that I wish. I'm so busy with everything else. I don't have time to work on any big fun projects at the moment. Judgment question: was there a website out there that got you interested in front-end development? For me, it was too advanced back when it was using Macromedia Flash. Ooh, good question. I can't remember a specific website that I was like, oh yeah, I want to be able to like do that. But I do know, even in the early days when I would be making websites, I would be inspired by existing sites and be like, I want to try and do that thing they did. But I don't remember any like specific things that I had created. I'm trying to think if there was a site that really got me excited, but yeah, I'm not sure. Do I have any other content about Astroplan? I do, but I'm not sure the best. I don't know, like I'm having trouble framing it in ways that I think would be useful on my channel. So I'm not 100% sure what to do other than like, let's build out this big project where we can build something. Walton, yeah, did I ever browse CSS Zen Garden? I definitely browsed CSS Zen Garden. Yeah. Maybe that was one that, like, for me, even when I was doing WordPress stuff, it was like I was essentially making my own CSS Zen Garden, because I would just throw CSS files in the garbage, and like as a child theme, it would just be coming in with a new CSS file. So I sort of made it into my own Zen Garden in a sense. Constantine is asking, have I worked on larger projects like a pattern library or a large backend system? What is more interesting to you, UI UX for large systems or fancy design for... well, as far as working, I've worked on large projects that could have used pattern libraries that didn't have them. As far as, yeah, I've worked on projects that have them and it works well. I've worked on projects that could use one that didn't have one, that didn't want to invest in creating one. So I've seen both sides of it. I've never worked on creating or been part of the creation of the pattern library. As far as what's more interesting, I think both are very interesting. I like the idea of like solving problems for large systems. There's definitely, it's satisfying, but it is a lot of work and setup and the boring parts to it. But the payoff is very rewarding. The fancy design for a single use case is more fun though. But you know, it's also not reality most of the time. Would you be able to work with front end and choose the back end? Would you be able to end work? I would not work back end. I just don't have, well, I could. I'd have a lot of learning to do. And it doesn't interest me a lot. A lot of talk of CSS Zen Garden. there's no payoff because it's never finished. Yeah, they're always in development, but you know, if you have, you can have a solid pattern library that will be continued to be worked on. But yeah, I know what you mean. Jasper in the Discord asked, "What's today's sponsor?" So once I don't have the right way, that would have been a good one to have like lined up. But you know, go sign up for one of my front end mentor using my link below, or sign up for one of the Smashing Conf workshops and conferences, and or one of my courses. My own content is my my own content is today's sponsor. Go buy my stuff, I guess. There's t-shirts too, if you want to, you know, let everyone know that you're a front-end friend. Those exist. They should be linked somewhere down below, I guess. Again, this is assuming you're on YouTube. Which CSS framework for production? Do we have to pick one? That was Nishanth asking. Honestly, I'm lucky in a sense that I haven't had to use one in so long now that I would have, if I was working on a project where I could see it actually being beneficial to have one, I would have to look into it because I don't have modern or up-to-date experience with any. Crimson Moose asked, how should we organize CSS files so they load efficiently for Lighthouse? You shouldn't have too many files because of the way that they load. Don't use, or no, that's not 100% true, but don't use imports within CSS files would be the first one. I think you can probably get away with an import here and there, but don't, like, especially don't have imports within imports. Imports in general are causing problems. There is like the question of like one giant file versus a whole bunch of individual files. That depends so much on project architecture and everything else on like, is it reasonable? There's things like critical CSS that can be really useful. So that will pull the CSS out that you need and put it as inline styles, or not inline, but like an inline style block at the top of your file for you, for the things that are, you know, within the folder, before the fold or whatever. So that can help if you are having issues. Yeah. Do I have any interest in DevOps? I am identifying as an old school front end dev, but last few years I found that home labs are a lot of fun. I don't have any specific interest in them, but I could see it being something that I could get into. But yeah, it's just not my, I haven't dabbled, but I could see why it would be interesting. Marco, I was thinking of a starter kit for Astro with the integrations of a SAS boilerplate. Yeah, that could be really cool. Since almost everything tends to use Tailwind, and I personally don't prefer it. Yeah, that would be good. I want to do a video or something that's like looking a bit at that file that I was looking at that had those snippets, and I'm planning something around that as like, here's a starter file, but I find just having a starter as a CSS file, it can be useful, but having it with something, like most people are going to use it with something, but I'm like, if I do it as an Astro project, then does that alienate the people that aren't using Astro? So is it better that it's a standalone? I don't know. Yeah. Robert's asking if I heard of Etch Builder in WordPress. It's basically an IDE with superpowers behind it. It's the future WordPress and very dev friendly. You can actually edit CSS, JS, and HTML. I have not heard of that actually. Curious. I'm talking to, yeah, Kyle. If you're in the WordPress community, you might know him. He has a good YouTube channel. I forget his full name, but Kyle, not Web Dev Simplified, another Kyle who does WordPress content on YouTube, and I'll be talking to him about WordPress stuff, so I'll ask him about it. YK David is asking if I have a grid course. No, but I am working on something that will include a lot of grid content, but that won't be out for a little while now. Camran, why never use Tailwind? Your idea about Tailwind? I get why people like it, but it's not for me. I just think it leads... it leads to an over componentization. It's pain to every time someone shares a code snippet with me that's using Tailwind and I have to read through it, I'm just like, this is debugging it for me is a nightmare. If I'm like, it's frustrating for me looking at it to try and debug something. So that's there, and I just, yeah, I just feel like it's not for me. But I understand. I honestly do understand why people like it. I think there are some benefits to it, but it's not my cup of tea. Constantine, do we need Sass anymore? Nesting container queries have changed how CSS should be written. It depends. If you need loops, you need Sass, because loops are never coming to CSS. At least that's the current stance of the working group. So if you use loops for anything, so I use a lot of maps, and I use loops for those maps and other things with the maps. So those are two things I don't think we'll see. If you only use nesting, and we have mix-ins, if, and custom functions coming, so those are all coming to CSS. So there could be more arguments that maybe you don't need it anymore. We have color mix already, and all the color functions, relative colors. So like there's a lot of what we used it for. So it's becoming more of a niche use case for sure. Craig saying, congrats on 1K. Thank you very much. I find it funny. You've shifted from looking forward to my CSS videos to looking forward to my podcast and rambling. So many relatable things you talk about. I appreciate your work. Oh, thank you, Craig. I appreciate that. I always like to hear when people like the podcast. So thank you. If anybody's listening and don't know, I have a second channel. If you look up Kevin Powell General Musings, I don't have the link to it right now. I should probably get it. 1 second. General Musings. I have it as a podcast too, but I'm just going to put the YouTube link in the chat. And if you preferred, well, you can get YouTube Music, I think, carries it as a podcast. And then there is a podcast feed. I'll get it. 1 second. I'm not logged in there. I'm not getting it right now. I'm not logged in. But yeah, there is like an RSS for a podcast feed too, if anyone's interested in that. There will be Constantine, sibling loop, the sibling index is amazing. There's sibling index, sorry about that. There's sibling index and sibling count, which are awesome. The one problem with them is, and it's, sorry, 1 second. I just got, but 1 second. Okay, cool. What was I going to say? Yeah, you can't pass that information to the parent. Sometimes there's some of the use cases for it, but I do agree having those, you don't, if you're looping through, if you're using loops just to like change a style through each child, then definitely that you might not need that. The founder, Kevin Greer, is looking to talk to people like you for YouTube. I'd be interested in your thoughts about it. I'll look into that. I know Kevin Greer. I think that name sounds super familiar. So, yeah, I'll try to remember to look into it. I should judgment. Yeah, I probably should talk about the podcast more on the main YouTube channel. Sorry, 1 second again. Oh, okay. Genesis.com. About 5 years ago, you talked you pretty much started my coding journey, and although I don't do web stuff, you helped a lot with my game development career. I'm so happy to hear that. That's amazing. Yeah. Cool, thank you. Or I don't know, but I'm glad that I could be of a help. The best backend framework is any of the ones I don't have to worry about. I don't know. I have zero knowledge on that. Sorry, Trip2. Walton, what would you approach designing CSS for a CMS where users might want things like responsive columns but don't know ahead of time the content and users aren't willing to learn HTML? See, that's where the data or the attribute function could be kind of cool, right? If there's a way that you could like hook into that, because it could be super useful for that type of thing, I think. They might want things like, yeah, I know it's always hard coming up with like generic enough things. I think if it's possible, I'd probably be doing a lot of custom properties on things that would be easy to modify through the CMS. Like you're setting values in the CMS, which is setting those as custom property values on the elements, and that's passing it down into like the class or whatever and being used how you need it to be, if that makes sense. Kaylin Marion, thank you for subscribing to the podcast. And if anyone's here and watching this and you haven't yet subscribed to the channel, please do subscribe here. We're trying to get to our road to 1 million subscribers. So the more, the better. We started a redesign of a website at work. How do I convince my colleagues that we should use clamp instead of breakpoints for font size, margins, padding? There is a website that is fantastic. Oh, no, that's not what I wanted to do. Let's go here. Let's go to here, and let's go to a new tab, which is viewport.fyi. Oh no, what was it? It's Andy Bell did it. Viewport FYI. Let's see if viewports.fyi. Very bright. Let's just get that URL. So viewports.fyi, I was close. This could be a nice one. So this is, or it's by Andy Bell. I said it's by Set Studio, which is Andy's studio. So they collected 120,000 data points to look at for the viewports and stuff. And it's such a cool website. Basically looking at like the different viewports and mobile versus desktop and like everything else. And obviously they had to come up with something. But if you get through the whole thing, basically you can't know, like these are all the different viewport sizes that they got throughout. And so there's just like tons, you can get the full data and everything. So like common 607.68, like 0.42% of viewports fall in that range, and 0.31, like, right? So like there's no breakpoint that is super, like, to say like let's just use these breakpoints. Like, how do you decide when that breakpoint should come in? Especially for things like margin and padding and font sizes. Font sizes, I could see an argument. Some design, like if you have a design system in place, it can be really hard to come up with a good one where it's really fluid type and it's well done. Like things like utopia.fyi are fantastic for that, but I get why people aren't always on board with that. But yeah, just, and media queries and breakpoints have a purpose. I strongly believe that they should still be used. It's just not overly done, and because it can become a management nightmare if you're having to overdo it. So yeah, I think there's other sites like this one too, but this is the one that always comes to mind for me, just because it says, like, I think it does a good job of trying to explain that you don't know how users are going to visit your website or app. Instead of making design decisions on strict limited breakpoints, keep in mind the sheer amount of fragmentation there is in viewports. The recommendation to clients is always to be the browser's the mentor, not the, anyway, etc. I think this is like the perfect sales pitch if you're trying to get people away from specific breakpoints. So yeah, hopefully that helps. There's a number of great talks on CSS Day about the idea of adaptability of the layout. We can't design for you can't design for 3 to 4 screens anymore. And it's hard when you're doing it based on a static Figma file, for sure. Just because you're looking at a static file and you have to figure out how am I going to like do something with this. But I think it's possible. It just takes some thought, which people don't always like to think. But another question from the Discord. Unknown asked, is Chrome going to be like the next IE? And I think this is actually a really good question. I think they mean in terms of like taking over, right? Because for those who don't know, history lesson, at one point, Internet Explorer had over 90% of the browser market share. I'm going to say over 90%. Correct me if I'm wrong in chat, please. But it was whatever it was a very, very, very large amount, to the point where if they wanted to implement something a certain way, they just did, because they could, right? And so it didn't really matter what the agreement was on how they should do things. IE was just like, oh, we can do it our way, and it doesn't really matter. And then everyone has to follow what they're doing. And I think they're wondering, like, Chrome has the biggest user share, not as big as IE ever did, but it still has a very big user share. And they do seem to be freewheeling things a little bit. And so it is a bit of a good question. I don't think so, just because I think there's too much organization behind everything now. We have the Interop project. I do think there's enough pressure to prevent that from happening. But it is a good reason for us to have multiple browsers, and hopefully continue to have multiple browsers. Jasmine, you're on a tight budget right now. Is a membership to Front End Mentor worth the money? So I would say the fantastic thing with Front End Mentor is the wide range of topics they have, and it's all generally from like industry professionals that really know what they're talking about. And again, the wide range of topics, and it is, for as far as like online education stuff goes, it is a pretty good price point, I believe. And if you use the link below, you do get 25% off, which can help as well. But obviously it depends what you're trying to learn. If you're really focused on like a singular topic, there might be a few things that are like, I would look through their catalog and see, are these, what can I take advantage of that's on their platform right now? Because there is a lot of good content, but maybe it doesn't perfectly align with what you need. So I would definitely like figure out what you want to learn, and then see if what you think lines up with it. Because generally speaking, all the stuff I've done through there, I've thought was really good. Because I was a member with them for quite a while, and I've always liked the courses that I was doing. Also, do look some of the courses get a little bit old, and then they do try and replace them over time. So you'll see like V3 or V4 of a course, and then other times they'll do like a different course that sort of replaces an existing one. So do look, because you might see like, this is what I want to learn. You're looking at what they're teaching, and then that course might be 4 years old, and maybe you want to find something more up to date, just because everything is evolving so fast on the web these days. So, but I do think it is good quality courses. So, so yeah, is Chrome going to be like the next Internet Explorer? I think that's the way they were framing it. And then Kick808 saying is WebKit is the new Internet Explorer, and I think meaning it in the opposite sense, in that Internet Explorer was a buggy mess. And that was a bit later on, right? As so at one point IE was doing their own thing, and then it became a complete absolute mess, and as other browsers were getting sort of more together. And right now WebKit would be, out of all the engines, is probably the buggiest of them. I think it's getting better though. They are putting money into it to try and improve it. There are some weird things in there still, sadly. It's kind of annoying, but I have seen a lot of improvements, and they are contributing to modern CSS in a lot of ways. So yeah, I think that, I don't think so. Anyone who's saying like it's like the old IE maybe didn't experience it. Maybe in today's world, it's like a less bad version in a sense. I can see why people get frustrated with it, especially with like the buggy things where it's like, okay, they've implemented these other new things, but they still haven't fixed this other thing that's been around for 6 years. Maybe not 6, but you know what I mean. I can see how that can be a little bit annoying. I'm going to go back to the Discord, and then we'll get back to the chat. If you do have any questions, leave them in the chat. I'm not going to make it through all these Discord questions. Man, we got a lot. Do you need to learn this is by Elise? Elise? I don't know. Do you need to learn everything before applying for a job, or do you learn in the process? You definitely learn on the process. You cannot learn everything before. If you had to learn everything before applying for a job, nobody would be employed. KW asks, how do you feel AI is going to shape work for developers over the midterm, 3 to 5 years? I honestly, it's either like GTB5 showed us that like things aren't going to continue linearly or exponentially improving, which I think most people could have said wouldn't happen. It was exponential, but at one point that does die off a little bit. So either we're sort of getting to where things are now, and we're gonna have to figure out how that works within, because everyone was so hyped on it, and when I say everyone, I mean like lots of businesses and business people who are hiring and stuff were so hyped on it, and then are realizing that's like a problem now. There's the whole like what is it, like AI fixer upper engineer role that's all over LinkedIn now. That's not what they're calling it, but something like slop generation improver. I don't know what they're calling it. There's a job title people are giving themselves now on LinkedIn for that type of thing though. Or it's actually going to deliver on the promise, in which case it's not just developers that are at work, it's like half the population. So I don't know. I'm personally, with where things stand right now, I don't know. I'd be shocked if it really reshapes things I mean, it's already had an impact. I'm not going to say it's not going to impact things, but I think, anyway, we'll see. I don't know. I think we're sort of where things are, and it's more about figuring out how we're going to incorporate this, and like finding the actual balance of using these tools and everything else, which is we haven't figured that side out at all. And again, when I'm saying we, I mean like the businesses and corporations and everything else. Matthew's asking, you are asked to build a website and you can only use 4 CSS properties. What are those? So I wouldn't use any of the font related ones, because we already have color, font size. It sucks. You have a black and white website, but that's fine. Um, or, 4 properties isn't enough properties, is it? I'd definitely use width or max width. Max width. I would use a max width, because then I don't want my content going super far. So readability is a focus. I would use a max width. I would use I'm going to say maybe background color. Not 100% sure. I'm holding that out there. I was going to say like a layout related one, but if you use flex or grid then you just like, you need more to go with that, and then you've just used up all your properties. Only 4 properties. Maybe I would just do typography then, like font family, because you could make something max width or max inline size. If we go logical property, font size, font family, I don't know what me. Okay, and then let's say color. I think we can make a nice looking website with those 4. All right, I think. Ragnar saying Firefox is also pretty high on the bugginess scale. I do know they actually fixed a whole bunch of stuff recently, at least in terms of the interop things where they were lagging behind. I know some stuff there's kind of weird on. There's one, I don't remember what it is. There's one weird thing that they do that really bugs me every time I run into it. But yeah, they do seem to be reinvesting in the browser right now. So we'll see what happens there. Avina's asking, can you please let me know of something similar to Pico CSS, something I can just link into my HTML and it automatically styles everything? Why not just use Pico CSS then? It seems to be pretty good. I should look into it more, but yeah, I should look into it more, but I'm not. If that's what you're looking for, then why not just use that? Let's just see. A bit of talk about chat is mostly talking about AI. Oh, columns property could be something to actually do layouts without worrying about it. That's a potential one. Okay, let's go see. Someone asking what my mic is asking what my microphone setup is. I am using. I can't. I need to make a website. Sorry if the audio gets weird as I'm moving around my mic. I am using. It's upside down. I'm going to take a picture and see if I can see it. because it's really dark. Um, in my office. No, I can't read that. Oh, maybe it got brighter. My camera. Oh no, it's an Audio Technica, but I don't know what shotgun. It's Audio Technica's indoor shotgun mic. They only made one, as far as like, or when I got it, they only had one. I should make a list of all the products I have, because people. My camera, just in case anyone is curious, is a Sony A6400, and I don't remember my lens, but the lens is a decent lens. I don't remember though. Kingpin asks, my opinion for utilizing AI for SCSS, or CSS, what should you be careful about? I would say just be very careful. It does lots of really bad things. And what surprises me the most about AI with CSS is if you give it existing CSS, some of the things it does, like where it could just use classes, and it uses the stuff that's already like variables. It'd be using your variables, and it does it in a kind of decent way. And then all of a sudden it's really good at making useless declarations that like with 100% that just sneaks in there for no reason that could potentially cause problems. It likes throwing things in like that. It likes all of a sudden, like it's using variables, but then it throws in these random other declarations. And just the idea of the way CSS works and the way the things AI is good at, they don't really overlap enough. Just like the global nature of CSS isn't great. So yeah, I'd say just be careful in general with everything. And it uses a lot of older things as well. So just being aware of that. NeoSynapse. I use BEM. However, it's not always easy to name elements of a block. Yes, definitely. I know that. I feel that pain. How do you recommend naming elements of a block if those elements just serve the layout? I don't name them. Not everything has to have a name. Yeah, I've gotten away from being like super locked in with BEM. I still follow a lot of their patterns, but if I have divs that are just a div without a class on it, and I use a descendant selector, it could just be as generic as possible. If you really do feel like if you really feel like you need to name them, just try and be as generic as possible. VR, I can't say your name. Is that a Chris Kirk Nielsen t-shirt? It is. All my t-shirts have been designed by Chris, and we have another one in the works. I was hoping to have it ready for today, but it's not. Well, the design's been finalized actually, but I'll share it another time. But yeah, t-shirts are all down in the description if you want one. Okay. Ryank asked, I know every browser might have their own thought process to develop a new HTML or CSS standard, but why can't there be a standard guideline so every browser has those features? That's what we have. Similar to Unicode, maybe. We want to know your thoughts on why the standards are all a mess and us as developers have to look at multiple lines of code just to make it work on a certain browser. That's mostly because there's bugs. But there is a standard, there is a single standard. There's the CSS specification and the JavaScript, ECMAScript, right? HTML has each one of the languages has their own standard, and it's a singular standard, and all of the browsers should implement it. The problem is each one has a different engine powering it, so they have to all implement it. They have to follow and they have to pass tests and everything else to be able to say that they've implemented it. And sometimes that's harder to do. There's bugs that sneak into one engine that aren't in another engine, and then you get inconsistencies between them. That's part of web development. You don't know what browser someone's on. Gotta figure it out. And the more consistent it is, the better, obviously. But yeah, there is, and that's what the interrupt project. So there's baselines. I see CPN's talking about baseline. So baseline, the idea with baseline's nothing official. It's just a way of tracking. So there's newly available, which is when all the browsers support something. And then there's widely available, which means all the browsers have supported it for 2.5 years, 3 years, 25, 24 months. I don't remember. Quite a while. I think it's 2.5 years. So, and when the browser, that's just sort of like a way of tracking if something supports it. But saying it supports it doesn't mean that it's perfect. That's just when the browser says they support it. Uh, there's the interrupt project, which also isn't officially involved with the spec or anything like that. But what they do is they look at the spec, they write a whole bunch of tests, or there's actually the new submissions for it are going to open for 2026, like next week, I think, where you can, if there's features that you think are inconsistent across browsers, but all of them are there, it's all about having interoperability. So it works the same across all the browsers. So you can submit different features that you think need to be worked on. They choose from the list of submissions. I think they usually do like 10 to 20 in a year. Let's find it. Let's go pull it up. One second. I know I'm not sharing my screen now. Interop 2025. Web platform tests. I will put a link to it in the description. There we go. We need the link. Whoops. Full screening things. I don't want to be full screening. So yeah, this is the web platforms test. So this is all the tests that they're doing. You can see actually here, Safari is, speaking of, on all focus areas, and this is on last year's test. This is the 2025 ones. So they still have some months to get there. And you can see Safari just had a really big update there, but you can see sort of as the updates are happening and they're getting close to it. So the line there is showing how many of the tests they're passing of the features they talked about. And here's the features. So backdrop filter, currently Firefox is the only one passing all of them, which is interesting because I think they were the last one to implement it. But we have core web vitals, anchor positioning, which Firefox, I'm surprised, it's their nightly version, so that's why we haven't seen it yet. But I'm guessing we'll see a big bump on that at one point. The details element, layout, and like layout is obviously a very big thing. So Safari is, that's usually I think where people run into issues with it. But you get an idea. The navigation API, hopefully we see that just got added, I think, not long ago to Safari. But these are all the different features that for 2025 they were agreed on. We're going to write a whole bunch of tests for and try and get all the browsers to have equal support. If we go look at 2024, we'll see 2024, like look how fantastic they did. And they got basically by the end, they more or less all got there. And that was things like relative colors and scroll bar styling, custom properties, which there was still a few little bugs in the custom properties. I'm curious what they weren't passing. But yeah, this is an initiative that just tries to make sure all the browsers are actually on the same page. Or no, that not only have they implemented the feature, but they've implemented it and it's following the spec and it passes all the tests without any bugs and things. So they can only do they can only do a limited number of features too, which is why I'm pretty sure the 2026 one's opening soon, but they always pick like roughly these many. There's always some CSS stuff, but you can tell it's not only CSS related things either that show up in these. But let's do that, and then come back to here. No Ladybird. No Ladybird. It's, I mean, what I think Ladybird's more trying to get there than they are anything else right now. Right? Like, I think, yeah. I don't think they have the user share that most people would worry about it too much. D'Amico, what would be the most efficient or dependable way to test on Safari for free if you don't have an Apple or Mac device? You can. I have a video on it. I think that's literally the title, is like how to test Safari on a Windows computer or something. We use Playwright for it. It's very easy to do. I got it from a post by someone else. It's linked in the description. I don't remember who did the original post that I made the video based on, but it's super easy to do. I would say that it won't be perfect, but it's running WebKit, so you'll get like, it gives you a good idea if things are busted or not. Oh, Ragnar, same play right there too, yeah. Nikita, for small projects that need a design system, what approach would you take? Specifically in terms of CSS variables and utilities, which ones? So if it's a small project, I have a free course called, it's the space website one. So if you go to my site and then just go to the space web courses and find the free one, it says like a space one. It gives a decent idea of how I'd approach that, looking at all of those things, starting mostly with the variables, creating some utility classes and then building out from there. But yeah, I do as much as I can with the variables first. What advice would you give someone preparing to give their first talk at a conference? Ooh, that's a good one. Um, okay, the best piece of advice I got, because the first talk I ever did, no, sorry, the first talk I did was like, I think the room held like 30 people or something like that, 30 to 50, I think more like 30. So the first one I ever did was, let's say it's 30 people. So like that was a comfortable environment for me because I'd been teaching in the classroom for a long time. And so that was like very similar in that it very, like even the setup, everything felt like it was a classroom environment. So it wasn't too bad. The second talk I did was CSS Day, which was main stage. They only do main stage, lots of people, and very intimidating when everybody I learned everything from and all of my CSS heroes were sitting in the audience. And so the best piece of advice I got was remember that everyone in the audience is rooting for you. Because it can feel really intimidating, right? That you're getting up there and there's all these people staring at you. And it can feel really easy to think that like they're judging you, but they want you to succeed, because if you're doing well, then it's a good talk and everything works well. So like even if things start going off the rails or a little bit, they have your back. Everybody in the audience is supporting you, even if things aren't working properly. Another thing I would say is if you screw up, like say you forget one of the lines you rehearsed, your timing goes off from other things that you were doing. Only you know that, unless the people have already heard the talk before. If it's their first talk, they've never heard you, they don't know. All right. So don't get so caught up. Like, I don't know. I rehearsed it like crazy. I was also making changes to mine basically the morning of, and being there and seeing other people giving talks, they're making changes until the very last minute too. I think so. Like, don't feel weird if you're doing that either. And just, yeah, it's breathe before you go on stage. And don't forget the beginning. I think for me, I was very nervous and I relaxed a little bit once I got into it, but just try and like take a few deep breaths before you walk out. Yeah, I guess that would be my best talk. My best advice, I should say. If you are doing live demos, do, as Ragnar says, have fallbacks. Live demos are, it for me, it's a comfort zone to do a live demo because it's what I do. Every time I'm recording stuff, I'm doing live demos. So for me, that was when I started feeling better when I did my talk, was like, okay, now I'm going to go do the code. If it's not something you do a lot, talking and coding is really hard, and or not really hard, but it's a skill. It's easy if you do it a lot. Right? So I won't say it's really hard, but it's a skill that you have to learn. So if you're not somebody who does a lot of live demos, don't decide you're going to do one. Now, there's no harm in, like, live demos are cool, but only if you're comfortable doing a live demo. If you're not comfortable with that side of things, don't try. If you're mic'd, don't sigh. That can be a hard one. It's so, I find like most of the things that you'll do are subconscious. So yeah, that could be a big one. Is like it's one of those things you only realize you did afterward. Lots of record yourself if you're practicing. Like, practicing is important. Record yourself practicing, because then if you're listening back, you're going to hear yourself if you're doing hums and haws or sighs or anything like that. PPK, who knows a lot about public speaking, he says that if your presentation is too low level, you have to apologize to the audience. If your presentation's too low level, you have to apologize to the audience. If your talk is too high level, the audience will apologize to you. Yeah, I think that's good. And the second is the desired outcome. Yeah. Estimate that your audience knows what you're talking about. Mohammed asking, most of us use mobile, so what about the mobile version of browsers? What those tests we're all looking at, I do believe it's the engine they're looking at the engines that are being used, and it's the same, like WebKit's used, it's the same engine across different devices. There are a few different things like the, what is it, the fixed positioning. There's a few bugs that can pop up on mobile that aren't in the main browser, but it's essentially it's the same thing, sort of. Anyway, um, David, that's a really good one too. If you've been invited to talk, what you have to say has meaning. People want to hear, yeah, that's a good one. It's, I will say, if anybody's ever doing any sort of public speaking, it's the expect to have imposter syndrome. Like that, every every time I've been invited to do a talk, and then as the talk is approaching, like, so when I first get invited to do it, I get a wave of it, and then I haven't done a lot of talks, but every time I've gotten invited to do one, I get the wave of it, and then as it's approaching, like the time gets closer and closer to it, the biggest imposter syndrome ever. It's, everybody gets imposter syndrome. So don't, if you start feeling that, just know that it's normal. It doesn't necessarily help when you're there and you're feeling that way, in terms of like dealing with the emotion, because it still sucks. But at least if you know that everybody feels that, or maybe not everyone does, there's probably some lucky people out there who don't. But being a little bit nervous is definitely, I think, a good thing. But it's also very normal to have imposter syndrome and other things like that. Have I used all on set display revert? No. No, I wouldn't. I get the display revert is a nice little step on top of that. It's just way too heavy-handed for me. But Mad Blob, I talked about it a bit before, so I won't say it again. Too much detail, but just I get why people like Tailwind, but it's not for me, is my short answer. Thank you, a Fuzzy Bear. I appreciate that. David, I've been out of web development for 6 years with physical and mental health issues. I'd like to start over, but with the amount the industry has changed, do I have any advice? Don't be overwhelmed by the amount of change, because it is very much changed. So I think that would be the main thing. Because yeah, there's been a lot of very big shifts. Some of them you might think are amazing, and other things you might not think are the way things should have gone, but things change, and sometimes different things get taken in or whatever it is. So just be prepared for things to be different is the best advice I have. And just, try and catch up a little bit on what's been going on. And you probably it might feel overwhelming at the beginning, but you'll probably get back into the swing of it pretty quickly. Sagar, you're welcome. Thank you for the kind words. Oh, that's a good one too. Doing Toastmasters. Oh, 1 second. Sorry. Apologies. I couldn't. I was going to mute, but it's behind my camera. I can't see what to click on. Next live stream, I will have my Stream Deck properly set up again. I won't make changes 5 minutes before I go live. Toastmasters would be a good way to get used to talking, for sure. I've never done it, but I've heard lots of good things. Benji, new CSS features are good, of course, but in practice they are unlikely to be used due to poor support. Thank you for the... I mean, yes, they won't be used right away, but they will be used. And there's differently, as support increases for them, it's important to know about them. So once the support is there, we're able to actually start using them. Paul, fun today fixing 100 viewport width overflow issue on Windows, adding a scroll bar. Yeah, love when people add widths to things that don't need them. Thank you for the bless yous. All right, we'll jump back to the Discord for a little bit here. Sia was saying, I remember you mentioning in your newsletter that you're updating the Conquering Responsive Layouts and CSS Demystified courses. Do you have an idea of when the updates might be available? My original timeline for them passed 3 months ago, so no. I'm really bad at planning these things out. I have been making a ton of progress on them, and I was hoping October, but I have my workshop with Front-End Masters coming up, so my focus is going to be shifting before then. But I'm very much hoping by the end of the year. Hoping for October, to be honest, but if that doesn't happen, then the end of the year. Because yeah, this takes so long. um, let's see. Can you please that one? I'm going to skip for now. I apologize. I've talked about that. Vince asking if that's a good question, Vince. Do you still have a passion for web development? Does the stress or routine outweigh most of the joy you get from it? If you still get joy from it, I still enjoy it. I love what I do. I'm lucky in that I'm full-time content creation and education. So, I enjoy it a lot. I do think you can see what I'm into through the content I'm making, which is one of the reasons a lot of the time I'm looking at newer features because it's interesting and fun. And that keeps me interested in it. And I have to keep doing videos on that type of thing that I'm interested in just so I can stay interested in it. I do go through ruts where I just start feeling like, ugh, here we go. Or sometimes I'm making another demo and I'm like, the part I want to teach is cool, but I need the whole demo in place to support that thing that I need to make. And that's like, this isn't the most fun, but that's just a job, and that's how things work, right? There's not everything is going to be the best, but overall, I find I have a very big passion still for CSS and web development in general. And the way things are going with it is just more exciting because more and more stuff is becoming possible and easier to do. So yeah, I'm still very much passionate about it. This is, I don't know the whole question. We're gonna get into this one from Baya. It seems that all front-end job postings revolve around JavaScript framework experience. If someone becomes pretty advanced with CSS and HTML, how close have they gotten to be job ready? Still a long way to go and a lot of other skills to develop, or are there positions where the primary role and it can still get you a job? I would say you definitely want to have some experience in a JavaScript framework and probably React, just because that's where a lot of jobs are. It doesn't mean that's what you will end up doing. If you have experience with another one, that's, I think, fine too, because you can probably adapt to whatever from there. But there are jobs where they are more focused on CSS, but they are very few and far between. So I'm lucky, as I said, with what I do. And I know a few people that do some jobs. It's more like UI engineer and stuff, but you still need to be able, like, it's great knowing the CSS really well, but it's still going to get integrated into some sort of system. And it won't just be like this style.css file probably. So you still need an understanding of like how everything else is going to be working. And a lot of the time you might need like design systems experience and other things like that. Just because often if you're going to be heavy on that side of things, that's the type of work you're going to be doing. Yeah, I think that's it. Start with viewer svelte, starting with React will deter you. I mean, that's always possible. I think that you should learn, you probably do need experience with something though, just to have an idea. Bus are asking about my headset model. They're big. Yeah, they fit over my ears, so they're comfortable. They are. You'd think these brands would make it easier to like know what they are. They're really old. They're so, I don't know if you can see, they're so banged up now. But they're Sennheisers. I guess it's a HD 598 CS. I guess. They're old now. There might be newer models, but they're really good. So yeah. Nikita, I'd love to use solid.js with something like Shad CDN, DCN, Shad CN. Anyway, but then I realized how many tailwind dependencies come with it. It feels flexible at first, but I worry it could turn into a mess. I'd probably play with it and then see what happens. HD 558, is that what I said? 598? Is that a thing? HD 598? Again, they're old. I don't know if the model still exists or what. I've had these for 5+ years, maybe longer, probably longer, like 8 years. But yeah, I would say try building some stuff with it. As if you, I mean, again, it's nice to say like, oh, play with it, but if it's like for work, sometimes you don't want to do that. But I would, if I was going to use something, if I was going to make something, I would probably want to test it out first to see what it's actually like. And obviously, you don't run into edge cases as much when you're just demoing something, but it can give you a feel for like the types of stuff that you might run into. PW, I did an excellent video on HTML's hard. Any chance of an area video as well? So I did talk recently with Sarah Swedane, and we did mention and talk quite a bit about area. So that'll be coming out on the second channel next week, which is my General Musings channel next week. And we're probably going to get together and do a more practical video at one point. We just haven't planned that out yet, but we did talk about that. So potentially at one point, yes. 5 movies. Star Wars is my favorite. So it's the quick one, the originals. The original trilogy was just sort of like my obsession when I was younger. These days, okay, there's I haven't seen it in so long now. I don't even know if I can watch it. I have the DVD, but I don't have a DVD player anymore. It's probably one of the only DVDs that I still have. And now the name of it's escaping me, so I'll get back on that one if I can remember what it was. Shows you it must really be my favorite. I don't know. There's lots of movies I like. That was probably like everything else is like one step below that. In terms of like the new Star Wars movies, some stuff, the TV shows are good. Some of the new movies are good. Some of them less so, but still a fan of the universe in general. What other? I'm really bad at like picking media in general for when people ask me stuff about that. So, oh, it's really annoying me. The other one. Oh, there was also another movie I used to watch a ton. So just most of my favorite things are like things I watched a lot when I was younger. It was Major League. Just like your typical sports movie, right? It's like it's not a unique story, but I always enjoyed that one. I watched it a lot. What was the other one? There is one more, but I can't remember the name of it. Animal, I do 0 backend whatsoever. Kingpin asked me about my opinion on the age verifications that are coming for Europe. Some of it's coming in the US too. It's like a state by state basis. There's a few companies that are pulling out of one of the states just because the rules are so strict in that state that they're not even putting the age verification. They're just saying we're not there anymore. Then there's, I don't know. I mean, it's annoying. It sucks for anyone who lives in those places. I don't really know what else there is to say about those. Is it Mississippi? Yeah. I've noticed lag when creating slider checkboxes, then discovered animation pre-warm 0 seconds. I'd like to know more. I've never heard of an animation pre-warm. The only thing I can... I think a wheel change would be better there. I'm guessing there's something happening where whatever the animation, it could be what's being animated is something that the browser's having trouble with. So if maybe there's a box shadow on there or something else that's causing the lag, because certain things animate better than other ones. I don't know if I've ever seen one with that, but if I'm seeing an animation pre-warm 0 seconds, to me it feels like that's the browser's doing something there for optimization, and I would probably use a wheel change instead. Wheel change is something that tells the browser this is going to change. Take the time to like pre-render it in the background. I might be oversimplifying here. I've never really in-depth looked at it, but my understanding of it is this. Pre-render everything in the background, so when this does change, you're able to do it in a performant way. There is a big side effect of that is that's expensive to do. So if you start throwing wheel changes everywhere, then the browser's doing all of this work ahead of time when it probably shouldn't be, because it should be busy doing other things or just, right. It's one of those things that you want to use if you run into a performance issue and you're trying to solve it, not to preemptively do it. And I have to look into this idea of a pre-warm because I've never heard of that, but I'm guessing it's a hack around a feature that we already have. If anyone knows, Kaylin, live until hitting 1 million. I talked to my wife about doing like a super long live stream at one point, and she's like, you should do it. And I'm like, no, I would have done this if I was 24. But at 41, that's not going to happen. I am curious. What are we at now, though? I think I've lost 4 subscribers since I started live streaming. I was, before I started, I saw it and it said that I was at 988,888. And now it says I'm at 884. So apparently my subscribers are not listening to me and subscribing. Oh, now we're down one more, 883 now. Uh, fantastic. That's great, guys. Thank you. No, I'm kidding. This is why it's so hard to hit a million. You start a live stream and people start unsubscribing. Um, did I offend anybody? I apologize. You don't have to buy my courses. Just subscribe. No. Um, uh, not 24. My hair is a good indication of I'm definitely not 24. Um, uh, Alex, welcome. I see GSAP, but I don't know why it's coming up. Or is it just because animations are going on? I must have missed something. Thank you for dropping in, though, Alex. I hope you're doing well. Um, Mohammed asked, how do I usually schedule my day? What activities do you focus on? Um, I go through phases of being very scheduled on my days and other phases of very little scheduling in my days. But I, in general, I do on Friday afternoons, I try and block out my next week in terms of looking at like what appointments or calls and other stuff do I have, and then blocking like, okay, I need to be prioritizing YouTube videos. So these big time blocks are going to be YouTube. I'm not saying what exactly, I'm just saying like, here's my time for that. One, I have recurring events for email. So every day at the same time, I have it on my calendar. It doesn't mean I always do it, but it's there and it does. I try and stick with using my calendar. So it helps me focus on that a little bit. And then most of my day is spent sitting right here without the lights on. But I prepare videos, I record videos, I research videos, make demos, make courses. So it's mostly about just trying to organize my time around the different things and what the priorities are. So it's usually make a bunch of YouTube content. I'm ready for a month and a half of doing other things where I can start focusing on everything else. And then slowly that YouTube thing comes back up. I have specific time slots for like newsletter work and podcast work and other stuff too. That's more of every week I'm working on it. But yeah, it's a lot about just trying to organize myself that way. Um, Nitrous, I've been converting people in my office from back-end developers to front-end developers. All I have to say is, do you want to become like Gary Neville or Cristiano Ronaldo? And everyone jumps ship. That's kind of funny. uh, I would love to use a hardware accelerated property for the animation and make sure there's not, yeah, I would check to see what, if you have an animation that's causing problems, I would say it's important to make sure, like, see what might be causing it. A lot of time it's things like shadows. I'm trying to think. Shadows are such a big one because people use shadows so much with like glowing effects and other things now, not realizing that it's like if you have a shadow that's changing in how intense it is, you're probably better off putting a pseudo element with the shadow and then playing with the opacity of the pseudo element instead of the intensity of the shadow. That's sort of the trick most of the time. There's other things too that can cause issues though, and if you're doing reflows and other stuff, just to be careful with it. I saw the question now. I lost who it is because my cat keeps jumping because I'm scrolling a little bit, but asking if I've ever used GSAP. I have used it, but I don't have much experience with it myself. Yeah. I'm on Twitch as well. Which platform do I prefer? I prefer. I don't know. If it's just for consuming content, I'm usually on YouTube. If I'm going to just be generally consuming. I used to stream exclusively on Twitch, doing more chill things. I found it was easier just to have like chill streams over there. Less people, which I guess helps and makes it more chill, but just like the vibe of Twitch was different. Now, it doesn't change much for me. Kevin makes videos in true dark mode. uh, how's your day been so far? My day has been good, thank you. Uh, okay, I'm going to jump back over to the questions I have in Discord. If anyone's watching and they just got here, I have like off-screen questions I'm just going through. But if you have any questions, ask them in the chat. I got like 20 more minutes, maybe 20 to 35 more minutes. So if you have any questions, drop them in there, because I'm not going to get through all of the ones I have here in that time. There's still a long. I keep scrolling, and I'm far from the bottom. Actually, that one I've already answered. That one I've answered. Who are your favorite or go-to industry leaders that you follow? That was asked by Weenie. I don't know. I mean, I follow, like, there's the, for thinking CSS, I just follow like everybody who's involved in it that I can. So like there's like the Chrome web dev, not well, the Chrome crew, Bramis and Yuna and Adam Argyle, who's no longer with them, who's coming back on social media. It's nice to see him posting some stuff again. So that's nice to see him re-emerging after that, because that wasn't cool. There was, who else do I follow? Like Jen Simmons with the WebKit team. There's or Jake Archibald's now with Firefox. So I felt like they know what's happening with the browsers and as features are being implemented. So it's definitely worth following. That's where following Jake, already knowing about a few features that Firefox is implementing, which is cool. View transitions are coming. I think it was, did he post about view transitions? Maybe I'm mixing things up on that. There's the heading pseudo class element heading pseudo class that I'm extremely excited about. And they're the first browser doing it, which is kind of exciting. Who else do I follow? Other people that are just involved in CSS a lot. So, Miriam Suzanne, I'm missing names now. Like all the people that are involved, like CSS Weekly, which is Timani. Is that Timani who does CSS Weekly? There's, I'm really bad with names. What's his name? Shahid. Ahmad Shadid. Ahmad Shadid. I mean, some of these people probably wouldn't consider themselves industry leaders or anything, but just like people that are heavily involved in CSS. Andy Bell and Piccalilli, Hayden Pickering. Yeah, I should have prepared for that question maybe, because just I'm really bad at knowing names in general, or remembering names, and I'm forgetting a ton of other people, so I apologize. But yeah, that's a very quick one. Yeah, Ragnar's right. Go look at, actually, if you go to Blue Sky, I do have a like a starter pack. So if you're not on Blue Sky already, if my pinned comment is a starter pack, I have 2 different ones. And it's just people that I think are good follows, front end people that are good follows. And then I probably haven't added recently to it. So you can go and look at other things that if you just look at who I'm following, you'll get a pretty good idea. There's some other like newsletters and stuff that I follow too, but Chris Coyer, of course, and Dave, the syntax guys. There's more. My total screen time in a day, a lot. I don't track it. I don't like 8:30 until 4 with a break for lunch and a couple of times like randomly get up. That's my screen time on the computer. I generally am not on my computer outside of those times, but then I have my phone, so I'm on my phone too much. So yeah. Zoltan, I'm a little bit out when it comes to. I mean, Alex is here. Alex, you were an industry leader. He's been a little quiet now, but Front End Horse was a very awesome place, and if you should check out his Discord as well if you're on Discord and you're already at Front End Horse, because it's a very welcoming and friendly place with other developers. Yes, I mean, and Alex is doing like awesome stuff also with I forget the name of it now, but check out his channel, or the channel, because the courses he's putting out have been really good. So If you can put a link to it if you want, Alex, in the description. I don't mind, or in the chat. I don't mind. Um, yeah, really cool, like GSAP and animations and cool looking things that are very exciting. Um, Sorry. Zoran does CSS Weekly. What does Tamani do then? That's right. Zoran has CSS Weekly at the YouTube channel and the newsletter, and then Tamani Fifth has like the CSS generators. What's Tamani doing? He has the other stuff. Lots of stuff there though. Um, okay, I'm gonna go back over to Discord. Is there any other tools aside from F12 to refactor distill our CSS after a project is growing for a few months in order to optimize our CSS for a parent-child nesting, etc.? It's a lot of manual labor, I think, is and trying to plan things out from the beginning and refactoring. You can do like things that will audit your CSS, but I find like not, it won't really help necessarily for what you're thinking of. But you can get, there's even like CSS stats. There's a few things you can do to get like audits on your CSS file that can help. And there's things you can use to like clean up the files. They Duck Days Quack. What's my favorite book, game, movie thing to do that's not related to your job? So we talked a bit about that before with like random hobbies I have. We talked about movies and games. Books I haven't talked about. I'm trying to read 24 books this year. That includes audiobooks, but I'm not going to make it. I'm at 16 right now. So there's, I guess, an outside chance, but several of those have been the Murderbot books that I did start reading before I realized there was a show. But those are quite short, so that helped me sort of get my numbers up. But I have been, yeah, I'm trying to read more this year, and I'll be close. I'll probably get through like 20-ish by the end of the year, so that'd be a pretty good achievement for me. I always enjoy reading, but I'm just making more of an effort to read more. If anybody has book suggestions, let me know. I will say I could pull up, actually. Let's see if I have any from what I've done. What's it called? I have an app that I'm tracking them on. Storygraph, which is sort of like Goodreads but free and open source, or not free. It's free, but not owned by Amazon either. What can I get my stats? Not my stat. I want to see the books I've read because I again don't have a good memory. Does that tell me what I finished? I've read this year. I've read a whole bunch of Brandon Sanderson, who I'd recommend if you're into fantasy, if you haven't already, and the bunch of the Murderbot books, which are fantastic. I would definitely read. If you haven't read the Murderbot books, I would recommend it. A really good book. It's a bit of a strange one. It's called The Black Tongue Thief. I would actually recommend the audiobook. It's done by the author, but it adds so much. He does have like a Scottish accent though, so you have to be able to understand what he's saying, which I'm okay with. But really a bit different, like quite different. But really enjoyed that. The Black Tongue Thief. I've been reading a bunch of John Scalzi too, because I think it was last year Josh Como put a post or something, a tweet or something, because John Scalzi's books came out as in a humble bundle, and he recommended getting them, so I got the bundle, and now I'm just sort of like slowly getting through them as a change of pace, because like I find the Brandon Sanderson books I really like, but they're long and kind of heavy, so it's a nice like complete change of pace doing a John Scalzi, plus then you're going like sci-fi from fantasy. That's been about it this year, actually. Yeah, that's been everything that I've been doing. Lots of ones there. But all right. Dungeon. I've heard good things about Dungeon Crawler Carl, but I haven't read it. But I've heard good things. I've heard the Murderbot show's good. I know people that like the show. They were complaining about it a little bit though, because there's definitely they without spoiling anything, they just told me some of the differences they did. Some of it I think you had to do because to translate some of the way things are would be different. But I think like the style of humor is a bit different. The books, I love the books. They're really good. I haven't read The Wheel of Time, and I'm debating whether I should. I've heard mixed things on it, just because like I did. I just finished the or just it's been a few months now. The what was the last one by Brandon Sanderson? Da, 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 The Wind and Truth, the Stormlight Archive, and like that's long and heavy books. The middle of it gets a little bit slow. He finished it strong, in my opinion, but the middle of it was kind of long and slow. And I was thinking like I've heard that it's a little bit dragging a bit at times, and I'm like a series. I don't know if I'm ready to commit to that, especially maybe next year or like another year. Right now, I'm just sort of trying to cleanse my palate a little bit with some shorter things. Um, It'd be cool if Humble Bumble did physical books. I'm mostly on almost everything I'm doing is either ebook or audiobook. I would say the Murderbot books too, if you're like audio, definitely. I've done most of them as audiobooks, and the one I didn't, I was like, I wish I did this as an audiobook. Very good. I know they're not all, but sometimes audiobooks aren't fantastic, but really good. Um, yeah, I've heard mixed things about the TV series for Wheel of Time as well. B1, thanks for hanging out for so long. I appreciate it. Um, Terry Pratchett is good for quick reading. I read the first three. Yeah, I watched the TV show of the Three Body Problem. And I'm like, oh, I enjoyed it. And then I'm like, I'll read the book because it's probably better. I only finished the first one, and I don't think I'm going to continue. I don't know. Or no, I didn't even finish. Or is there more? I don't remember. I have it here. It's one of the reasons I didn't mention it. Where am I at? I'm at or maybe I did finish it. No, I must have finished it because it's not on my list. I do have a book. I started the Powder Mage trilogy by Brian McKellen. I finished the first one of the three books, and I'm taking a break because I'm not in love with it. Um, the Netflix series, it was okay. It wasn't like, oh my god, it's the greatest show ever, but I enjoyed it. But the books, I think what I was expecting it to be better than the TV show, and I don't know. It wasn't that it was. I mean, you get more information and a bit deeper. I didn't get into it. I don't know why. Andy Weir is fantastic. I've done a lot of his books, if not all of them. Andy Weir's I'm a big fan. He has another TV show coming out, doesn't he? I don't remember which one, or a movie. Okay, I'm gonna keep going with the AMA, but I will take more book selections if you have any. Um, I'm gonna skip a few of these. Have you ever contributed? Would you ever contribute to the spec or code to Firefox, Chromium, or some OSS browser? So I would not contribute code to any browser because they're all written in languages that I know nothing about, and it's very complex. Would I ever contribute to the spec? I've been following. Yes, I would. I don't know if I would ever try and write a proposal or not because I don't know what to propose, I guess. Um, but this is how Tari is asking. I think, I'm following a lot of issues and I'll comment occasionally, very rarely. But I am trying to focus. If I have something, I think I'm making it a point going forward to be more, to actually comment on issues that are open to help do some sort of contribution to the spec in one way or another. I have sat in on one of their calls, and it was very interesting. Yeah, we're really in the weeds, and it was like, oh, it was like it was on what's become the margin trim and box trim and all of that, but just like going to like you have to get it down. Like the first three quarters of what we were talking about was just like the inline spec and how it works and making sure everybody understands that. But it was cool being in on that. And I definitely would, if ever there's ways for me to contribute and I feel like I could make something useful to it, I guess I would. But I don't have like, oh, I'm working on this proposal or anything. um, I've seen a few questions about whether, I think I talked about it, right? If we should bother with SAS anymore. So I won't mention that one because I see a few more here. Uh, thought processing, when you're debugging CSS, do you ever add random properties until something works? Yes. Uh, if what I'm doing isn't working and I don't see a typo and I don't like, there's a few mistakes I always do. If I don't see any of those, then at one point I just try like I'll throw random borders on things to see like, is my selector even working? Just trying to like process of elimination at one point to like figure things out, right? Do I have you good skills in other programming languages not related to CSS? Not particularly. And that's from Jupo Web Dev, who's also asking if I have skills in UI UX. With my skills in UI UX, have I ever tried to create video game interfaces, or related games? I have not. I thought about doing it with one of my kids, but it never really took off. Question about BEM and if I'm going more to Cube. Yes, that's from RCAS. I gave some examples too. I'm not super into BEM anymore. Some parts of it I still use, but more of the Cube CSS type of approach to things. No, so I could, okay. I'm going to pull something up really quick. I'll show it. Oh, it's not going to work in this tab. That's okay. I can break another tab in. I don't know if I'm logged in or not though. I am. Okay. So actually, let's just see what their question was before I show it. Okay, I'll show it. This was, where's my, there we go. So this is something I made because I mentioned earlier I'm bouldering. So just as a fun side project of my own, I made like a session tracker so I can keep track of them, which it looks like I didn't track my last couple of sessions. But it was just like a fun thing to like little like journal type thing where I can write like session notes to myself. This one I delete later, so I can delete that one. And everything. So just like a simple thing, I can track climbs and everything else. So I have to remember the last couple I did to add back into here, whether it was indoor or outdoor, which they're all indoor and everything. And the main reason I decided to do this, there was two reasons I decided to do it. One of them was because there's other things that were like this, but they were like part of bigger things, and usually like they were that side of it would be free, but there's like other parts of it that weren't. And I wanted something that would work with like only with what I wanted without all the extra fluff. And the other part was to learn something new because I don't have backend experience or anything. So I use Supabase for the backend and off, and I'm using SvelteKit for the project itself. So B1 just left. He would have been happy to hear that. I think he already knew that though. But yeah, it was a fun little side project for myself just to sort of get through all of those and learn a few things along the way with it. Oh, Alex, everybody, so many people I know are into bouldering now. It's crazy. If you do want to poke around in it, anybody can make an account. So it's free to make an account. You just need an email address and it sends you a magic link, and you're good to go. Alan, thank you very much. Mark's asking, what's one long-standing CSS quirk that still bugs you to this day? What is something that bugs me to this day? That is, I don't know. There are some things. It's mostly like browser support across different things. Box sizing. I mean, it'd be nice if the default was the opposite, but I do like that we can control and choose. Because I've actually been switching more things back to content lately, which is kind of weird. When I say more, there's like 2 times I've used it in the past while, but yeah. Chris was asking, I talked a bit about this, but Chris, I'll think about the long-standing bug or quirk. There's the quirky things. Like for me, I think a lot of the things, sorry, I'm jumping back and forth. Some of the things that bug me the most with CSS are just like those early day decisions they made. They're kind of annoying. Like the inconsistencies with names where there's like commas here and then there's no commas in this other thing. Some of this, like, there's no inconsistencies within like the naming and other stuff like that. Like that's more for me the parts that bug me than like, yeah, than anything else. There is a weird Flexbox bug that I don't remember anymore, that I don't even remember what browser it's in, but I know there's a couple of Flexbox. There's specifically one Flexbox thing that I don't remember what it is that can be really annoying, that I wish I could figure out or remember what it was, because it's one of those things that you rarely run, or I rarely run into it with the type of stuff I do, and when I do, I'm annoyed by it. Chris, do you work on client sites or do you get your income from courses, YouTube talks, etc.? These days, it is all from courses, YouTube talks, etc. I was doing client work when I was starting to go full time on YouTube, because I wanted to make sure I was staying in it, but it's just so time consuming and I didn't have the time to do both. Negative widths for content box. What would you do with a negative content box width? Or would it be like a rotate when you get it backwards? I'm curious now. Scroll bars are kind of annoying. I will agree with you on that, Ragnar. And thank you, Alex, for that was such like a small little thing, but I'm like, I should make them look like rocks. Considering the current state of things, do you think CSS needs more advocates rather than more features? I think there's a lot of people, just not enough people paying attention to the people that are talking about it. There's a lot of really good creators doing awesome stuff with it. Oh, Mark, that's not the problem I ran into, but field sets are annoying. Because he said Flexbox use in form field sets. The other day I tried doing a subgrid in a field set, and everything in the browser was telling me it was working, but it wasn't working. And I was just like, this is... field sets are so bizarre. Yeah, field set styling in layout... Field set layout styling is definitely something that needs to be fixed. Because, yeah, it showed everything there, but I'm like, it's showing me that the subgrid is working. The pill is there. The thing is there, but it's not giving me the columns I want. And then I just did a grid template columns inherit instead. And then like magic, it worked, which is fine because it worked in that situation. But I'm like, I could easily have a layout where I want this to actually need to require subgrid. And this is sort of what more subgrid is for. Anyway, what else? Okay. Do you recommend keeping a living repo of CSS you can reach for buttons, cards, layouts, etc.? Or would snippets be a better option? I think a living repo of stuff is awesome if it's basically like a design system, right? Or something like that. I think if you have something, if it's very consistent, then that's good to have. It could also be something where I would have something anyway. If it's things that you're doing over and over again, don't keep doing them over and over again. Is customizing other people's sites a good way to learn CSS? Can be, for sure. I'd probably focus more on like practical things, but again, like as I said earlier on, there's a way that you can learn a lot by like modifying themes and working on themes. So if you're just doing it by like poking around at other people's websites, you can definitely learn from it. But at one point, I do think you also need to build stuff yourself. If I had to Ragnar, if I had to champion a W3C CSS working group proposal, what would it be about and why grid autoflow areas? I have to think about that one. If I had one to champion, a reading order probably, which is, yeah, I think it would be that. I think grid autoflow area, I know what I've looked at it since, but I think it'd be cool. I think reading order is just really important. And we need it. So, is the web intentionally limited by vendors in favor of native platforms? No, it's because things are complicated. And the process of, the vendors are all involved in the working group, but it's not only made up of the vendors. There's a lot of people from different companies and different backgrounds and everything that are involved in the working group. So no, it's definitely they don't really have the means of limiting it that way. they probably have, if the opposite, they probably have more of a means of trying to push it in certain directions, just by backing certain things or trying to get certain things forward, or building prototypes for certain things, whereas a proposal from someone else might not get that. But even then, I don't think there's that much politics going in. The main limitation that the browsers do, it's not even the browsers, it's the companies that own the browsers, is they don't fund their browsers enough. And I know they spend quite a lot of money on it, but for companies that are literally printing money, they don't invest that heavily in the teams behind the browsers, comparatively anyway. Their Chrome recently made some really big cuts. Safari's always hard to know, and Firefox Firefox is a bit different because but when it comes to Chrome and Safari, like, they're not funding their teams as much as you think they might, considering the size of their companies. Boris. Oh wait, this one I don't think I can do in an AMA style thing. Sorry, Boris. It's a big question. I might take that and break it down into something a bit more. He's asking about implementing pixel perfect UIs from Figma. These aren't minor issues, but rather reoccurring inconsistencies. Things with spacing that are slightly off center, gaps that are lacking consistent rhythm. I mean, consistent rhythm can be a very hard thing. Text styles appearing differently. Welcome to different browser engines rendering things differently, different OSs rendering things differently. The thing I think you have to realize when you're doing things for the web, there is no pixel perfect, and there's going to be little issues here and there. And if you don't know, go watch if you're trying for absolute pixel perfection, go watch the video by Miriam Suzanne called "Why is CSS so weird?" and that will answer your questions about why it's hard. The other question he did ask was, how do you spot the base text and font size and line height and font weight to be used as a website default? I just look at what, like, the paragraphs are using generally or whatever the most common thing is, and use that as my default. Oh, Anna, instead of using a field set, she's using a div with a role group and an area labeled by instead of a legend. Might not be a bad idea. Yeah, I don't get the chat overlay is changing people's names constantly. I don't know why. QW Dragon animation. I have a padding border with a border box I can animate to and from 0, but if I have content box, I can't animate for less than the padding. So I want something like padding 1em width. Oh, yes. So you're actually getting down to 0. Yeah, okay. I get it. Zach asked if I could add 3 features to CSS, what would they be and why? I get asked this a lot. I don't have great ideas for new things. I keep seeing, like, new specs and new things coming up, and I'm like, oh, that'd be great. I'm happy someone thought of that. But I don't know. I just like seeing what other people are coming up with and doing. What is a browser you recommend for web developers that isn't your standard browser? I don't know if I have a suggestion there, to be honest. For web developers specifically, just because, like, I think if you're doing development, you want to be using either Chrome or Firefox just for the web, like the dev tools. That doesn't mean day to day. Like, if you're into all the many different browsers that are coming out now, that's awesome. Find one that works for you and you're happy with. But I just think, like, I for a long time recommended specifically Firefox for their dev tools because they were so much better. Now the only one that stands out still with Firefox is their Flexbox layout thingy. That's a million times better than anyone else, but everything else Chrome's basically copied. So yeah. Maybe there's something else. There's other features and things you can use, but having good dev tools is important. Alvaro, welcome. Thank you for coming in. I won't tell anybody, don't worry. What would I get rid of in CSS? That's an interesting one, Marco. That's probably easier to answer than the other way around, of what I would add. What would I get rid of? something that like causes problems. I know they can be useful, but if I could get rid of something, it would probably be viewport units, and people might get mad at me for that. Not because I think they're not good, but because people do lots of bad things with them. It's too easy to misuse viewport units without knowing any better. So maybe that would be a one. Cashin asking about the pros and cons of using rems for font sizes. What are the pros and cons, and how often is it used in production? I would say that the pros is that that's what you should be using. And hopefully it's always being used in production. Or basically you shouldn't be using pixels for font sizes. There's always exceptions to every rule, but that would be like one of the things I would say, like, it should be your general rule of thumb, I think, or other relative units. I think just like M's can be a little bit funky, so it depends. But if it's like an M on a span, that can be super useful. Like Rem's like the safe, good one to use. And I just realized what time it is, so I'm gonna have to wrap this up. That's why you asked what you would champion and not what you'd want to add yourself. Good question then, Ragnar. Thank you. Judgment, yeah, the Days of Firebug, I definitely remember. Oh yeah, PPK on that. Definitely saying get Ladybird or Flow or something and test your sites. I would definitely say get as many browsers as you can get for testing purposes. That definitely would be a good one, yes. You shouldn't solve these problems, but they teach you how to think about web dev and like how things can go wrong. Yeah, that's a good one. And I like the picker and measuring thing in Firefox, measuring parts of images, not elements, something Chrome doesn't have. Yeah, I forgot about that, but it is handy. Remove the shift on the keyboard of spec authors. The shift key. Do we have capitalization on anything? Why else would we have the shift key? Abhilash, no, I do not have a normal job. There's been a few questions on it. So YouTube's what most people know me for. Most of my income comes from courses, and that various other content-y creation things. Oh, current, yeah. You don't have to capitalize the second C in current color, though. It works without. That is one of those old things. And I have Polypane. I'm a big fan of Polypane. I would suggest Polypane if you can get if you don't mind spending money on a browser, 100% go for Polypane. Two good reasons for it is you're supporting an independent creator, which is amazing, and you're getting a really good browser. The other thing with Polypane though is that if you're working somewhere, it's a small amount of money for a company, so you get your boss to pay for it. Definitely, yeah, it's super useful and it's helped me out with a few things, and the accessibility debugging and stuff is really good in it, as well as a few other things. You're like, oh, I wish this was how it worked in the real browser for some of the debugging and stuff. Best courses in the market depends on what you want to learn. If it's CSS, I'm going to have to say my own. How do you feel like to redo your course as it is? How do I feel? I'm redoing CSS Demystified right now, but I also don't feel, even though it's an older course at this point, which is one of the reasons I'm redoing it, because there's new things that have come along, I don't think it's outdated in the sense that everything I teach in it is like, it still applies. It's one of the nice things with all the new things coming to CSS is it doesn't change the old things unless it's like fixing a problem or something like that. Do you recommend PenPot over Figma? I haven't used PenPot enough. When I had tried it out, there was a lot of rough edges still. Some of them I think are still there, but a lot of them have been addressed. And I like that they're doing it to work with the spec rather than like, this is how Flexbox and Grid work, rather than like, let's make a design tool that then people need to figure out. So I'm very tempted to go back. I just need to find some time to like sit down. Oh, my speaker is now telling me that I have to go start making dinner. So yeah, I'm gonna have to wind this down. Thank you everyone for coming and hanging out. It's also really hot in here. I'm probably really sweaty looking at the moment. My office gets quite hot when I'm recording. So this has been, I need a fan going, but I don't want to have a fan when I'm recording. So anyway, I just want to say thank you for everyone for coming in and spending some time with me and celebrating this milestone. I will say I've now lost a total of 10 subscribers, so that's fun since we started. So apparently I know not to do live streams anymore. No, I'm kidding. I'll still be doing live streams. I'm just happy I didn't have the oh, we gained one. Thank you very much. That just came in. So yeah, I just thank you everybody for coming here, for helping me get to this point, because 1,000 videos is a lot of videos, and I definitely wouldn't have been making this many videos if it wasn't for everybody who's been watching them and all of that and supporting me and everything else through all this time. So I really, really do appreciate it and everything, because yeah, it's kind of crazy that we're here. And so thanks once again. And question there about Tailwind, I'm just going to say really fast, vanilla CSS all the way. And with that, thank you all for watching. And of course, until next time, don't forget to make your corner of the internet just a little bit more awesome. And now I don't have my Stream Deck set up, so I have to find the scene manually, and I'm not going to find it. Starting, no, we're not doing a break. We're not start. That's the one I want right there. Oh, and it's too small because I forgot to resize it. There we go. Uh-oh. It's breaking still. And, oh, I forgot. Let's see. This might be a little bit late. Let's just see if, oh, that's not, I don't think I have an overlay on the screen. We'll try it next time. I set up some overlays for chat commands and I never tried any of them. I completely forgot. Anyway, thank you all again for watching, and yeah, until next time, bye.